All right, guys. BrackCast number 25. It's Canada Day, July 1st. Wearing a red t-shirt. Oh, Canada. And originally the idea every five BrackCasts, we would have a fun mukbang, chill, maybe some food, some drinks. But I came across a post today. Let me pick up this post for you guys here, so you guys can see what I'm talking about. I'll pull it up, please. No Pride in Genocide. I didn't really know that this was a hashtag for today, but we've got additional members now here to join us. Thank you, Mike.
Yo, what up?
Kyle seems to have arrived as well.
Oh, you handling it by yourself there for a bit.
I just
What's that?
finished making my food.
I can't hear you guys.
I'm not speaking particularly loudly.
Why can't I hear you guys?
Like, you can't hear me at all?
It's just very, very quiet. I'm gonna bring
hear
down.
Kyle normal. I can hear Kyle at normal volume.
Okay. It's just me then. Alright, say something.
Hello.
Nah, I can hear it. It's
Check
fine.
1 2. Check 1 2.
So yeah, I was saying every 5 BrackCasts we usually do something fun. Something chill, mukbang, drinks maybe. And we just talk about something fun. But it is Canada Day. And I came across Tola's post today. And you saw it, Kyle.
Yeah, I was gonna message her on the side too at some point.
Yeah, I asked her, I messaged her and I was like, can I share this? She's like, yes. I'm like, should I tag you? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay. So, I mean, it's there and on the example. I'll link it in the description if anyone wants to see it afterward. Actually, you're not going to be able to see it because it's private. I'll figure out a way. I'll quote it in the description. But basically, with everything going on and all the news about residential schools, it's Canada Day. Is it a day to be patriotic, nation pride, or the opposite? And there was a brief kind of discussion / there was a differences of opinion earlier in the BrackCast chat here that we have on Discord. But I wanted to save the discussion for now. So hopefully Day does show up and share his side of it. Dan can't, but we know Dan supports Day's view. I think Ren might come. Okay, well, that's the post. I don't have to keep it there for now. But I figure we could start on a happy note and talk about, like, why we're proud to be Canadian. Yeah, is that a good idea?
Sure.
Yeah.
If you are.
There's,
Or do you think it's better to go sad and
there's
then?
two sides.
Sad and then happy?
Yeah, there's always two sides. Yeah.
I'm with both, right? Like, Canada has been a better place for me to live, but you just can't, once you know the history, like, you should at least know about the history and understand how serious it is, colonization itself, and why there's sort of this backlash against the Catholic Church. And, should we be burning all the churches down like in Edmonton? Like, no. But I think that people should try to understand the side of,
Compassion?
the side of the Indigenous people. Like,
Yeah.
sort of like, just like the Black Lives Matter, try to understand where the hurt comes from, where the rage comes from. And this is very similar, but like can be seen as even worse sometimes, because there was like literal genocide. And
Mm-hmm.
what happened in Canada is it's arguably worse than like just killing everyone, because it's like you're trying to just assimilate them, and you basically kill their culture and kill their personal like sort of religion too, and sort of make them become Catholic. And you know, instead of just fucking just kill them. Like, so you can you know, it's they're both terrible, but it's a real problem that isn't really taught in school, and it's swept under the rug. And you know, there's still Catholic, there's still a whole, you know, Catholic school system. And the Catholic Church is still very much established in government still. And you know, there's a lot of these things that are systemic, and people should know about it instead of just be cool with everything. They should know and form their own opinions based on that.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Oh no. Oh no, guys. What is going on? What? Hold on. As such, YouTube is not receiving video to maintain smooth streaming. As such, viewers will experience buffering. I think it should be okay now. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was done.
Okay, well, what you said about it's worse, Canada did was worse than just killing. True.
No, I didn't say that. I said it can be seen.
It can
as
be
possibly
perceived
worse.
as worse. Okay, cool. Because, like, you know, when Spain colonized all their various places, like, and, you know, France and England and all those, or even, yeah, like, Mongolians, or like Genghis Khan, or when Persia was trying to take over everything, pillaging. And I mean, what I heard, I don't necessarily agree, but I do. It makes there's a point there where, in all of the history of colonizing, like, that's what they did. I'm not saying it's right. None of it is right. None of it's cool to like invade and take over someone's land and home, and then either they obey or die. None of that's right. We know that now in today's standard of terms of morality. Yet it did go on for longer than the modern era, right? So
Longer than the modern era. Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know. If okay, it depends what we're talking about. If we're talking about just colonization in general, like, and people taking over, you know, different parts of land, it's not a past thing. Like, it's still happening today. But if we're talking about Canada Day, like, as a nation, then it's a different story. Yeah, like in the past, it happens. Like, I mean, yeah. Because the way you're talking about it now sounds like it's like something that has happened and we know better now. But really, if you look at other countries, it's still happening today.
But other countries, our view, let's say as a nation, even Canada looks at what's going on in, you know, Iraq and Syria, or like any war that we choose not to take part in. We have that choice to be against it. Like, we can stand against it. The UN.
So you're saying, like, as Canada as a nation has a certain view about colonization and all that, not like just in general.
Well, I don't even want to say Canada, because Canada's not one entity. Like, it's a whole bunch of different opinions. The nation itself, I guess, yeah, we are represented by what the democracy ends up stating with a prime minister, but that's not even everyone's opinion. I don't like saying Canada thinks this, because that's not an accurate. But what I'm saying is, like, when there's a war, when there's invasion happening now, when there's colonization or people trying to invade other people's land, we can sit here and be like, that's not right. And we can say that. right? Like, and we can be vocal about it. We can post it on our social media and all that stuff. But like back then, sure, people could still say that's not right if they knew about it, like if they like other continents or whatever. But it's the people of power are the only ones that really had an opportunity to have an opinion. So okay, when I want Dede to be here before I say when he's like, what point is he missing? I kind of want to wait till he's here for that, because then.
But I'm trying to catch up, and he said he's not even going to join.
Dede?
He said, I'll pass. That's one of those things I get to know, like right at the beginning. Did he say he'll join after that?
Well, that's right at the beginning, right? And then he said all that stuff. And then I said, well, we could just save this for the podcast. And then he's like, touche. And I don't know. Maybe he might not come. But if he doesn't come, I could say it at the end, I guess, But okay. Well, so the thing, how do we want to go about this? Do we want to see like positives, and then we can go negatives, and then we could have like a resolving kind of a medium at the end? Or do you want to go negative first and then positive? And then
I don't get what you mean by negative, positive. What does that mean?
Oh, like patriotism on Canada Day. Today's Canada Day, and the contrasting ideas was about celebrating it or not. And for those who, make it a point to not celebrate today, the harsh judgment there was they should just leave the country. So
what?
Like, yeah, that's the BrackCast. Like it was written there, like in our exchange.
All right. Well, I don't agree with that.
Yeah, I don't either. It was extreme,
like,
right?
For instance, this year, like, I knew residential schools were very bad. I knew that kids got taken from their homes and put in these schools and tried to be assimilated into Catholicism. And I knew there was physical abuse and verbal abuse and sexual abuse. But it was new to me that so many of these kids and like women too, when they see these graves, a lot of it is like women and children, obviously some men too.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I didn't think it was that many. And I've mentioned it before too. Like when the first one was found, I was like, can't wait to see how many more show up.
Right.
Because it's like tip of the iceberg kind of thing. I really didn't expect it to be this many dead people, like dead kids.
So I think the people who went through the residential schools, they knew it was a lot. I guess they didn't know other residential schools existed, maybe, and the numbers were there, and like the country has sort of gone through this where it's like we know the residential schools happen, we know the there was abuse and sexual abuse and all that, and there were like confirmed numbers, but there was also that like these are only the confirmed numbers. So when this happened this year, it's like it just adds to the confirmed numbers. You know what I mean? So it just adds to the shock.
Also, I mean, for me, it's I understood like some got like abused and raped, but I really didn't think that many got killed and buried.
And to be buried like right in
like
front of
right near the school.
Yeah,
that's fucking grave. Like it's really disturbing to me. Like it's really sad. It's like beyond sad. It's beyond angering. It just leaves me feeling like shit, because like, I mean, the work that I've done, I've been in a community for, I wish I stayed longer, to be honest, to just hear more of the stories. But some of my students from Kudrak, like their grandmothers or like a few of the elders for sure are survivors of residential schools. And so it's really, it feels like it hits home more. I didn't think it would be this bad, and this again is the tip of the iceberg. So it's like, how many of these kids were killed and buried right next to however many residential schools there are. Like it's really sad.
Yeah.
And for that reason, this recent discovery, it makes me feel like I don't want to celebrate Canada Day. I mean, as much as I love Canada as my home, it's more like give that moment of silence and give some type of respect, because if you celebrate it, it's more like rubbing it in like the family's faces almost. To me, it's like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, hey, these people that came that one time and like established this country that sort of fucked up all your people, that day was awesome, and that's the day Canada was born. Yay! And it's like, man,
Can I ask you,
it really
Kyle?
it sits bad. It sits bad in me.
So, I mean, just like American history too, think about Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
Columbus or
yeah,
whatever, and that whole thing, right? So this is what we
yeah.
knew growing
And
up,
I hated that as well, like for decades.
right? But like we were young first to learn about this, and it's like, ooh, it's a story, the turkey, and then like construction paper cutting out little things of like that whole scene with Thanksgiving. And then we get older and we learn, we become adults or at least more mature, and we find out what really happens, but not really to this level of shock, right? But we kind of knew. Like it makes sense. It's like, okay, Canadians are all, this whole fathers of Canada. We're all like white people, but we're like, but natives were the first one here, and you're like Pocahontas, and then you think about all these things, and you're like, oh yeah, I mean, it had to have been the bad side of that scenario where we start thinking about what really had to happen in order for Canada to become Canada, or for the states to become the states, right? So you said when you learned about residential schools, like I can remember the transition of my head. I don't remember when it happened, but I was pretty young where it was like, oh yeah, Thanksgiving, blah, blah, blah. And then it's like, eventually you're like, okay, wait, it had to be bad. It had to be like bunch of people coming in and forcing a culture onto something on foreign, they're foreigners and now they make it their land. It's not pretty, right? It's just like war and invasion. But you said when you learned about residential school, so like was that like within the last decade or something? Like,
So I didn't know about residential schools because I grew up in Trinidad.
okay,
I moved up when I was 11. My first year in Canada was grade 7. I
okay,
learned about residential schools probably in high school in like grade 10.
mm-hmm.
Um, and then I come from a colonized country, so it all made sense. But like where I come from, I had a little discussion about it with my cousins today and some friends from Trinidad, and we kind of made light of, we went to Catholic school,
Mm-hmm.
and in Catholic school we learned that the Indigenous people of Trinidad were like, savages and
Yeah,
these vicious barbarians. And
Is that how they actually taught you in school?
yeah, and whenever they're depicted, they have the spears and they look,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and well, we had to kill them, right? But
Oh,
we had to
damn.
defend ourselves. So you learn about, so
Yeah.
Christopher Columbus discovered Trinidad, and
Oh,
so he and when they came, and they just fucking killed them all. Like there are very, very few people. I've never even seen one or met any or heard about any that, like, people that have Indigenous blood in them still in Trinidad.
yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure they all died. Like, what happened in Canada was more like, maybe it was done sympathetically. Maybe it was like, well, they're savages, but they're just ignorant. We will teach them the true way. We will teach them about our way and Christ and Jesus and technology and medicine, right? and
Mhm.
we'll tame these wild beasts, and that's sort of the approach. And then when that didn't work out, it didn't work out for the Inuit. They were just like, "Fuck this! Let's just put them all on this ship and just ship them up north, and then give each family 2 loaves of bread, and that's it, and we'll just leave them there."
Mhm.
And like that's literally what happened.
Mhm.
And they luckily found other Inuits who were up north, and they fucking survived, and they fought. They fought for their life, and now they're and since then, the decades past since then, you know, have been the government continually trying to apologize, and their way of apologizing kind of is just throwing money at the problem, because I guess the damage has been done. You can't undo
Can't
it. You can't
you
fix
can't
it.
undo it. Yeah.
So it's like, you know what? We're sorry. Like whatever y'all want, take money. We'll
Hmm.
buy you we'll redo your gym, your school up there, like the school that I worked at had, I've said on other podcasts, like fucking state of the art stuff. Like every classroom had a smart board. They had a few classrooms that had like an iPad for every kid,
Mhm.
and stuff like that are, what I see as they're trying to, make amends in a way, but
Mhm.
sadly that does not fix the issue. Um, but yeah, I think
Can I ask you a really loaded question that I don't really expect you to have an answer for?
I mean, sure, like I'll try.
Is there anything that would fix the issue?
I used to think I had a couple of discussions with teachers up there, and I said, the people who know the old school skills are still trying to pass them down to their kids or grandkids.
Mhm.
How to make a spear, and how to hunt beluga without fucking snowmobiles and guns. It's like the skills are almost lost.
Mhm.
How to make Pualuk, and like the winter gear, the gloves and the boots and the jackets, and there are craftsmen still that are making them the old school way with like seal skin and like really really good stuff. But as the generations go by, the kids are getting more and more whitewashed. Basically, they're into like, I have no doubt that the kids in high school now are all about the TikTok
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
Snapchat, like no doubt. Even if the internet is slower than a 56K fax modem, like they don't care. Like it's still
Yeah.
they're still connected,
Mhm.
and so they still see what we see.
Yeah.
And so these kids, they don't want to learn all these old things. So the question being, to fix it, um, obviously very hard. And the discussion I had was, man, you if you could imagine if, you know, basically we left, we as in white people,
Right.
the Hellenet, like we just left, and we just left them to their devices, and they lose everything. And they basically have to survive again.
Mhm.
And then these old skills that the elders know now, and they're trying to pass it down, like they will have to be relearned. The old school hunting ways and the old school survival, and yeah, their tech is going to go to shit. You know, the community is powered by diesel, like these giant diesel plants. That's how they get all their electricity. So that's gone.
Mhm.
It's just like returning to what it was. And I remember just playing with the idea with some other friends up there. Like, would that be good or not? Would that be better or not? Because if you have these kids and all of a sudden they have a role in the survival of their people, instead of feeling worthless and don't even want to live, because that's what it's like now. You
Mhm.
know, that's why I would entertain these ideas like, man, what if they just go back to square one, and like the white man just gets out and they eventually run out of diesel and they got to get the dog sleds back, and because they have the skills, they have people who can still do these crazy awesome things. Anyways, yeah, so that, I mean, I have thought about it and I have raised the idea, but it's not something that will ever happen because like the it won't happen. But I mean,
Mhm.
just thinking about it, I'm almost on the side of like, man, like I feel like the kids would feel way more important, because they would be. They would feel like they are carrying the future of their people on their shoulders, and they must do what they have to do. Um, but yeah, I mean, again, yeah, loaded question. Agreed. It's,
Uh,
I guess that's all I can say.
my quick reaction to that idea. I don't think I would support that as a solution. But before I go further, I give Mike an opportunity. Do you have anything you want to say about that?
About what?
What Kyle just explained, or you know,
Uh,
the whole idea too of how we knew Thanksgiving and you know the discovery of Canada to then the mature and actual history of what happened, the transition in your mind, and how are you accepting, not saying that you did accept it, but like how did you react once we had this fairy tale story, this cartoon type of story became reality, and the dark reality of it, like what did
well,
you know?
okay. Well, when did you guys come to Canada? When did you guys get to Canada? How old were you guys?
I was 5 and it was 1988.
1988. Okay, so for me, I learned about it in school, so elementary school, and I went to Catholic school all throughout, right?
Hmm.
So from
Me
I
too.
guess grade one. So I did learn in elementary school about I don't know about residential school specifically, but I did learn the word assimilation specifically. Like we went through the definition of what assimilation was. And I think it was because we were in elementary school, the teachers wanted to teach us like the truth, but they could only, go so far without saying like, oh, these kids were raped and abused and shit. So I think I'm glad that my teachers at the time were more realistic in trying to teach what happened
Hmm.
to the natives, especially with that definition of assimilation. Because when we dug deep into what it actually meant, it's like, yeah, it's stripping of them of their culture. So I understood that when I was a kid, but all the adult stuff I learned later on, which is like in my head I knew, but when you add on the more like graphic stuff, it's like then it really starts to hit
Hmm.
more. It's not like yeah, Thanksgiving, you learn about the fairy tale Thanksgiving. We didn't learn when we learned about Canadian history, it wasn't necessarily the fairy tale story. Like it was in a way, but the teachers, at least from what I remember, were trying to be as honest as possible because obviously
Hmm.
if they had to teach it, they knew
In their
they had to
yeah,
know.
they already knew what happened
Yeah, they
too.
had to know what happened,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
yeah. So luckily for me, when I was learning, I wasn't taught, the way Kyle was taught. Like that's a bit too fantastical. Like we
Oh, the
were taught
savages.
a bit more. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The way I remember being taught about the savages was that the teachers would be like savages. Like
Oh,
they weren't truly saying they're savages, but it's just like the people back then they thought they were savages.
right.
Because we went to, like, did you guys go to like field trips to see like Iroquois nations and all that stuff?
Yep.
Yeah, so you learn
we
about
had
them.
we
You know what
had
I
to do
mean?
units where we had to pick like tribes and like do
Yeah,
independent studies on them. Like I had to do Micmac Indians for like
yeah, and it was cool and interesting. Yeah, it wasn't like they weren't teaching us that they were savages. They were like teaching
yeah.
us people back then thought they were savages. So
Mhm.
that was my experience with the education and learning about what
The
the
natives
natives
were.
went
Yeah.
through back then.
Yeah.
So
It is totally different to the Trinidad history, though.
Yeah.
mhm.
Like, I did
Yeah.
the grade 7 Iroquois stuff too, and I found it very interesting.
Yeah.
But again, like all the really dark stuff was hidden, so
Of course.
you just learn.
Yeah,
about,
because
like,
we're like in elementary
Like
school or
subject
high school.
matter, you can't really tell that to a kid, really. I guess in a
But
certain extent.
it was communicated that it was wrong. Like for me, I knew assimilation was not necessarily a good thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Like you understood the intention, because the intention is you wanted these people to they want you to improve
Develop.
their ways. But
Mhm.
yeah, but on the flip side, it was understood that assimilation was not necessarily good.
Interesting. I never thought.
You know what I
I
mean?
never had that realization when I was taught that. I always looked at it as if what they brought to Canada to
It's
natives
helping.
was to improve their life, was to modernize them, was to push them to development. It's like, and yeah, I don't think I ever thought about it as in the word invasion, but that's what it is. I can't. They'll
Yeah.
use other words as colonization, and they'll use words as assimilation, but really it's invasion. Like, they came to a place, they weren't invited, and they took over. Like, that's
Yeah, the beginning is invasion. What
yeah.
they tried to do with the residential schools was assimilation.
Yeah. Which is
Yeah. So I mean,
like,
luckily, that's why I'm glad like the teachers taught. I mean, I don't know what teacher taught me that. It was just in my head the whole time. So like obviously when we were in university and Kyle's talking about like, oh, all abuses of like Indian stuff, in my head I'm like, yeah, like that did happen. It wasn't like, oh, really? Like so they weren't savages? It was like in my head it's like I knew all along.
and that didn't just happen in North America, right? Like, that happened all over the world when the Catholic, the acts of where, yeah, there's like, they wanted to spread the word. Sure, they might have tried to do it peacefully with missionaries and stuff like that, but if it was also at the same time of discovering a new land and trying to colonize and set up new civilizations of their existing like colony and stuff, I mean, what else could it have been? Like, you can't just go somewhere where they already have homes and established territories and boundaries and be like, this is the word of God, do this and you'll be saved. First of all, language barrier, but like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I understand there were those civilizations where they weren't maybe quite as intellectually developed or educated, where they looked to religion and they actually welcomed. I don't know. Maybe this is make believe too. I don't know. I don't know actually what happened, but in my head, apparently that existed where they went out and missionary and they taught people, and people adopted Catholicism or adopted whatever the missionary was, and they were happy to. But maybe that's make believe too. I don't know, man. I actually don't know.
Well, what occurs like in our generation is, or our parents' generation, we weren't the ones assimilated. We
Yeah,
are the ones indoctrinated,
yeah,
which
yeah.
is,
Like
well,
I was
already
born
there.
Catholic.
It's past,
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
born
past the
Catholic.
assimilation
Like,
process.
yeah,
yeah,
you're baptized, you go to school. A lot of times where I grew up, it's a Catholic school. You learn all the prayers. You had no choice in the matter,
nope.
and you do the first communion. You do you just go through all these sacraments you learn about. And then hopefully you reach an age where you learn about everything and you make your own choice. And that's what I did. That's what happened.
And is that what your parents also kind of promoted?
No.
Okay.
They-
Because yeah, me neither. But
Yeah,
I did it anyway.
they're still very Catholic.
Yeah.
Religion's a different subject though. What I would say, okay, my too long didn't read or didn't watch of this Canada Day thing is that like to be blunt, like this is the easiest Canada Day to cancel because there's a
Mhm.
pandemic going on. So that's one thing. Otherwise, if it was like normal times, the government would push back. Another thing is not that like Canada Day, just like Kyle said, it should be a time to like sort of acknowledge that there was a dark history, not
Mhm.
completely ignore. So there's a big
Yes,
difference between that because you'll have people who want to be patriotic. There's nothing wrong with being patriotic,
I agree.
but there is something wrong with, you know, being blatant about it. Because I
Yeah,
was on Facebook today. There's
yeah.
some people on like, you know, Lloydminster. They're being blatant about being happy, saying Happy Canada Day. You know what I mean? They're saying it not to be patriotic, but to more so to rub it in the face of the natives. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
really? Like they
Oh
know?
shit!
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like,
Wow.
yeah, I see it. It's just the
Oh,
division is there, and you could see it,
I
like
mean, I
in the
oh,
comments.
definitely believe that,
yeah,
but I don't have friends like
yeah.
that on my Instagram or whatever. But I could see, I could definitely see it.
Yeah. Well, like we're
Yeah,
not in Alberta, right? We don't have friends
right.
in Alberta, but uh, that's what like that's that's my main thing. There's nothing wrong with being, you know, patriotic and, you know, celebrating Canada as a nation now, but as long as you acknowledge the dark history, then it's good. That's why people want to, you know, that's why it's in the news now. That's why people want to cancel. It's not necessarily canceling, you know, Canada as a
Yeah,
whole
yeah.
As
It's
a
not
country, yeah.
Canada.
as a country. Yeah, yeah.
There's a
So
lot of
that's the main thing.
the church,
Yeah.
which I mean, you say the religion is a different thing. I don't agree.
Yeah, same. I did.
I
Yeah,
think religion is
it's the same thing.
Catholicism is tied directly into this,
Mhm.
but uh, it's like I said earlier. Like I don't think we should be burning all the churches,
No,
like what you see, like what you see happening in Alberta. Um, that is, I mean, it is a way of making a statement, but damn, that's
well,
illegal and
I
it's
can't.
It's illegal.
terrible.
Yeah.
I
You
can't
shouldn't be
help
doing that.
but equate this. Not even relate it, but it's equating to like the Black Lives Matter movement. Like the whole argument was oppression for 200 years, and so they're trying to catch up, but it's not an equal, it's not a fair race, right? The not racism, but like running race. It's not fair because they've been oppressed for 200 years. And now when you look at the natives, that equation, I guess if you want to call it, they've been oppressed since they got here too. And they haven't been addressed at all. Like there is no, it was, you know what I mean, where like
I had
they're still
The
oppressed.
solutions that were given have not helped. Not that they weren't helped at all. Like the solutions that the government like has done to solve it has not helped long term.
Right.
it's tough because like if you think of the black people, you're right though. Like there's a direct comparison. I taught my kids like we talked about it a lot, like this parallelism,
Mhm.
and how like the indigenous people is worse. So picture like the black people, right? Picture instead of just being freed and being able to just live where they want and just they don't have a master anymore and they can just yeah, you fight for your seat on the bus, but you're there, you're living there in that city. Imagine that didn't happen. Imagine they were corralled into a little area on the map that was designated for them and they all get crammed in there and they just have to deal with that. Like imagine if that happened to black people.
Yeah.
It would the history would be completely different.
Well, I mean, they did. Like slaves, like they were
I'm
lynched
talking
and hung and,
I'm
like
talking after that though. Like after like there's no more slavery.
right.
I'm saying what happened to our indigenous people is they
That never
still
happened
were
to
put
them. Yeah.
on reservations and
Yeah,
like
yeah. Yeah.
they were separated from normal society, and therefore you talk about black people struggling to catch up to make the ground even.
Do
Like
we know if that's what they
indigenous
wanted?
people weren't allowed to race.
Yeah, do we
all.
know if that's what they wanted? Not exactly that, obviously, but did they want their independence. Probably, right?
Oh, you mean the indigenous people?
Yeah.
I think honestly, after their kids have been kidnapped from them, and then
Right.
all the trauma, I assume the ones that made it came back into the community. I'm pretty sure they were just like, leave us the fuck alone.
So what was first then? Like, do you know? Like, they came here before the reservations was the residential schools. Like they were like, let's just take all the kids first before they even thought about corralling them and putting them in zones. Is that what you're saying?
No, I think they would go to the reservations to pick up the kids.
Right. That's what I thought.
The-
Okay.
The
Yeah,
reservation.
they put it.
So they
law
came.
to
They
have
took all
to
the
do it.
land. Okay.
Yeah.
You no longer live here.
Yeah, exactly.
You now live where we tell you to live,
Exactly.
which is this little place over here. And occasionally we're gonna come and fucking take your kids.
Mhm.
And they're gonna disappear, and we're gonna teach them how to be civil like us.
Yeah.
And then the ones that survive, which I apparently was not many, we're gonna bring them back now, and they're just gonna be fucked up. But
Right.
they can teach you about how to be civil. That's what I understood the process was.
Okay.
So you know, like the comparison with black, it's just crazy, right? Like I can't talk to my Inuit kids and say this happened to black people. We can talk about the slavery part and what happened historically there. You lived on a property, you served the white master, and you did whatever they wanted you to do, and you'd get raped. And I mean, my kids were grade 10.
Mm-hmm.
So I could be a little more mature with
Yeah.
my subject. Like they knew what rape was or
Mhm.
is. You know, and then we talk about that kind of side, and then emancipation and how they were free, and you know, and then what happened after that, and the comparison is like it's similar, but it's so different too.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have to, you know, go to these these segregated areas, these little areas. And I mean there were so few of them anyway in the indigenous, like
Were they?
compared to black people. Yeah, like compared to the number of slaves that were brought from Africa.
Yeah, they were
Like
brought. Yeah.
it's there was a lot of black people in society still when they were emancipated.
Yeah.
And already after emancipation there were already kids that were mixed.
Yeah.
And you know, those kids of the slaves and the masters.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it going on, and so they were already, and this is what we talk about, you know, those 200 years that they're fighting from behind, and that's kind of where it started, right? Emancipation of slavery. But then when you compare it to the indigenous peoples, it's like, man, like I said, they don't get to race.
Yeah, no, they're not even in the race yet. They're still oppressed, right? Like they've been
they're like
separated.
locker room or something.
Yes, yes. Okay, so that's why when the whole idea of let's just leave them alone and they have to go back to their roots and figure out their own survival, I don't necessarily think, you know, bringing them back to whatever, you know, this is like I don't know the right term for it, but like, you know, their Stone Age type of thing, right? It's not like we're gonna bring them back to their savage ways. It's like saying, oh, so to fix the whole slavery thing, let's just bring them back home. Let's just let them all go back to Africa and they can live their life there. That's what I kind of thought of when it's that scenario. It's like it makes more like I think they should be part of the race now, because it's not like what the world is now. The first world living condition of Canadians, immigrants too, not just natural born Canadians, but immigrants, is a better, safer, more opportunistic way of living and growing up. So like they should have access to that if they want it. a choice. I think they should just have a choice. But if they want to maintain tradition, we have the same thing where we're immigrants too, and we have certain traditions and things we want to take with us and grow with us. You know, like
I think what Kyle, well, if you're, I understand where Kyle might be trying to. Well, from what I'm getting from Kyle is that it would be good to have like the indigenous people have a way to find their culture back, or like to have their traditions back. Not necessarily like, go back to whatever they did 100% without the help of whatever civilization and technology we have now. Is more like, and this is where you have such a what do you call it, such opposite, like what Canada was back then is complete opposite to what Canada is to the world now. Like now people think of Canada as like a place with all these cultures that can freely do their traditions and celebrate all their culture, right? Because there's so many immigrants.
Diversity,
yeah. It's very opposite to what Canada was doing back then with the residential schools, trying to assimilate them to this one culture. You know what I mean? So that's also another reason why, like, you have like a reason to just be aware of what the dark history of Canada was like. It's very opposite to what Canada stands for now, or what people see Canada stands for now.
Well, I'll elaborate further on why I thought of what I thought of. Going back, leave them alone. They do have a choice, okay? So education is free for them. Secondary, they all could become doctors and lawyers if they wanted. So why don't they?
Well, you explain. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. You can explain it again.
I mean, well, when a system is designed
to keep them there,
where you learn, they basically learn the same thing from like grade 4 to like grade 10. I mean, I was so it was saying like well, they don't remember everything from the previous year, so you kind of have to teach them again. And so just the education system and the curriculum is flawed. So when I talk about the lowering of the bar in education for us, like in Waterloo, and how that's so alarming, well, for the indigenous people, or at least in my experience in Kujarak, it's times 1,000. It's like the bar is not on the ground. There's no bar. The bar is gone. You could walk. You could just walk through. There's no bar to cross, because it's like zero expectations. So you don't teach them anything. So by the time they reach grade 10, I keep saying grade 10 because that's what I taught. So they get to my class. I have to teach them everything again, or try to. But they have the ones that still want to pursue like dreams. I really want to be a teacher. It's like, oh, well, that's amazing. You can do it. It just takes a lot more work, because what we're doing here is not good enough. Like, if you want to become a doctor, if you want to be a mathematician, it's like, well, what we're covering in science and math here, and English even, you need to reach another level, and you have to tell them like, okay, you can fight really hard here, graduate this high school, but you can't just go to college. You can't just go to university. You're not there.
Yeah.
You have to go down to CEGEP, which is like a school in Montreal, which is designed to like they can go there and basically catch up, but that could take up to 4 more years.
Yeah.
And that would mean leave the life in this little community. So if you know what happens in a small community, I mean, Kujarak is the biggest Inuit community in Ungava Bay, and there's only like 2,000 people, and that's counting the white people like me. So there's not many people.
Mhm.
You have to be extremely driven to leave everybody, to go to Sejep, to catch up in the school, and then go to college and university and be different there and be alone there and fight there to hopefully end up graduating that. Who guarantees you're gonna? Although I would say if you fought hard enough to get there, you're gonna make it. So you get these awesome success stories of pilots and doctors and teachers, but there's like one success story in maybe every few years
Right.
of kids going through. So what happens to everyone else? Well, they don't leave. They just exist, just like their parents. So a lot of them, the parents don't work. A lot of them, you just get that government check and you go buy the food and the beer and you just live.
Yeah.
So you know they have the choice. They have a pathway, but it's almost impossible. And when you see just the level of this self-esteem the kids have and just how bleak it is, how sad it is, that's when my thought came in. You know, it's like if they didn't have access to this, if they didn't see all of the world, because you know what, they don't live in Waterloo, they live in Kudrak. There's like a very isolated place, and they see this outer world that's not their world, but they see it now and they want it and they're jealous, and now they all hate themselves, and they see like what a supermodel looks like, right? This, and you try your best to say, I showed them that one video of that one girl, like very normal, pretty girl, but then like they show in a time lapse of someone photoshopping her, and
Oh,
then for like the cover of a magazine or something. It was really cool, and it's still very nice to show them like, look, what you see on these commercial places, right, it's not real. And that was just one little lesson, but that doesn't help really when they go and they just see everything on their phones, and they just you know it, it's just, for me, it's like, man, like, do you see where I'm coming from, where I feel like uh I think I understand what you're saying. It seems like reverse and like kind of stupid, but the only other way I would see is full assimilation, which is like, you know what, we're gonna take all of you here in Kuujjuaq and move you to Montreal and throw them into full society.
yeah.
I mean, their English is good, their French is good. So if that's what you're saying, I can agree. But as long as they're in their community, it's just going to be a downward spiral, and
Uh,
suicides will continue to rise.
okay. Hey, Ren. Thanks for joining. Okay. The choice that I'm talking about, and yeah, equal opportunity, right? That's why when I use the word equate, relate, I know like there's very specific differences between Black Lives Matter and this, like Native Lives Matter, I guess. But equal opportunity, like that's the point. People come here for an opportunity. Like it used to be the American dream, or like whatever, New York, whatever it is. But now it's North America, it's Canada. Immigrants come here for a better future, for more opportunities to live a better life from where they're coming from. And they're here in Canada already, but they're not getting that opportunity or that access because of the current system, the systemic thing that's kept them there. I don't agree with it. You're right. keeping them there. If they want to stay away from the cities and away from the rest of the first world as Canada knows it to be, or how we are defined in media and how everyone else knows Canadians, okay, that's part of the choice too. But the reserve, the whole idea of the reserve and them having to be there, no, I don't think they should have to be. I don't know. Are they forced to be? I don't even know if they're forced to be there. But like, I say that I think that too. Like full assimilation. I don't necessarily think it's assimilation anymore because they've already learned technology. They've already been exposed. They've already been exposed to this lifestyle. It's not even like we're teaching them, hey, this is what you need to do. They're growing up and they're seeing it, they're observing it, they're experiencing it through whatever medium that they're already able to see it, just like the rest of us. We're not growing up in our homes being force fed this by our parents or by a school system like this is how you need to be. It's just what we're right. We're like generations after when all the assimilation actually happened. We're born into it. It's like we're indoctrinated into it, and this is normal now. It's the same normal for them now too. Yeah, I'm not saying this. I'm not going to claim to say that I know firsthand nearly as or any at all, especially compared to you, Kyle. I'm not saying I know what they're going through. I don't, but I'm just looking at the scenario and saying like they are exposed to what we are exposed to. Maybe it's slower internet and all that stuff too, but the same kind of comparisons and difficulties that kids are going through, comparing themselves to social media and influencers and models and all this stuff on TV. The shitty education system, it's 1,000 times worse there. It's still a shitty education system. It still needs to be fixed there. It still needs to be fixed here. Like failing people should happen. They should bring that back. I think people should fail again, and they should raise the standard at a younger age so that people are more ready for a later for like higher education and secondary and post-secondary. It's like whatever they actually prepare them. But you know, we have all these other conspiracy stuff where it's like, well, they're making us stupid so that we'll just be more followers and then we'll fail and we'll be in debt and then we can just feed the monetary system. Yeah, all of that stuff is extra other side problems that, not side problems, but main problems that is part of this, but we can't address it in the same kind of at the same time. I don't think we're capable of addressing that kind of a thing at the same time as this. I think they deserve their own kind of attention. What I like about Black Lives Matter, what I like about this, what I like about the fact that now people are being made aware and it's in their face, is because that's all it needed to be at the beginning, right? Like Black Lives Matter last year, all these, you know, people dying at the hands of like white authorities and like systemic racism keeping people poor and all that. Now it's like it's the information is there. It's up to the user, us. It's up to the viewer to decide whether or not we want to believe it's true or not. But we have now the information is out and it's public. Same now with this. It's sad. It's tragic for sure. It's not like who do we blame? Who do we point and be like, hey, you need to fix this? It's true. It's like none of us did that. But we knew it happened, and acknowledgement is the first step. And I just think it needs to be known. And I'll just say now what I wanted to say for them, like for people who think that they don't have to celebrate, they'll just stay home for one day a year because they don't want to be patriotic and be thankful for all the things that this nation gave them, and they live it every other day. That's stupid. They should just leave the country. That when I said he's missing the point, I meant this individual who made this post isn't refusing to celebrate Canada and be proud as a Canadian and be proud and happy for what was given to her to live in Canada, and she's just turning her back on it and should leave the country. She's using the fact that she has an opportunity to be. Canada gave her the opportunity to have a voice. Canada gave her a platform. And she's using now the education she got here and the maturity that she grew up here in Canada to be heard and educate people of a very important decision, a very important occurrence that everyone should know about. She's not turning her back on the country by not celebrating, hey, hooray, Canada. I mean, if you're going to make one side of the argument saying, oh, what's one day of not celebrating and turning your back on the country gonna achieve? Well, what's one day of celebrating Canada and throwing fireworks in a backyard and having a barbecue and wearing red paint on your face What does that achieve for the country? Nothing. Like neither of either of the extreme of celebrating or not does anything for the country. It's a mindset for the individual, whether or not they're proud to be here or not. And I think the awareness of that shit happened, and to acknowledge, you're right, the moment of silence, bending of the knee, like people, yeah, like Black Lives Matter. You're right, they shouldn't burn churches. They shouldn't, like, Day just got here just after I said what I said. And
Get on.
yeah, Day, come on. If you'd like to hear what I just said. But you know what I mean? Like, I don't agree at burning of churches, rioting, and like defacing statues, and that doesn't solve anything. It's just anger, but it doesn't solve anything. Let's just take on the fact that we know this happened, and they should have equal opportunity. Everyone here, every Canadian, every individual in this country should have equal opportunity with everybody else. And if they don't, well, let's give it to them. They should, because that's what it's for. That's what it is to be Canadian. That's my mindset. And it's a choice too. Like, I could choose first world country. I could choose to, you know what, screw it. I'm going to just try and live on welfare, or like, whatever kind of thing where I could barely make it, or I could live on the street, or just couch surf and all that, and contribute nothing to this country. I can make that choice. But I have opportunity, and I choose not to. And I just, same with them. Obviously, something's up with the psyche too. They were trapped in a reserve. They're given access to booze and drugs. Somehow they don't want to become anything more than just living out their life until they die out of booze and drugs. That's a choice, but it's because, don't set them up to fail like that. Actually give them the same kind of things that we have access to, if they want it. But don't set them up to fail, That's what I'm saying. What's up, Dede?
Sorry, what I missed?
Damn it.
Missed the rebuttal.
It was like,
Oh,
I was
just happened?
I was waiting. It was like, I don't think he's coming. It's like, it's been like an hour.
Sorry, I went
an
to
hour.
I went to Costco. I had to go get food. I didn't have food. I don't have food in the fridge.
It's okay.
Well, while FJ repeats himself, I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
What?
Just kidding.
No, just give me like I don't know.
Okay, can you
Yeah,
at least say your summary? Like, it makes no sense for the viewers for me to be retaliating to something they didn't hear yet. So do you want to summarize your opinion on that post? Or you can even just say what you wrote too, the first couple sentences verbatim. When I suggested this subject, your immediate,
yes.
yeah.
Yes. So, hold on. What did I say? Yeah. So the TLDR version is, like my take was that whoever that post person is, them not celebrating Canada Day because they feel um they became aware of these, horrible facts and history, and they don't want to celebrate Canada Day because of that. I was basically saying that doesn't really, for them to say that, for the someone who was raised in Canada or has like living in Canada and still does live in Canada, for them to say that and then do that for one day and then just live the rest of their remaining year as a Canadian, taking all the benefits that Canada has to offer. It's kind of, kind of being a hypocrite. That was pretty much what my take was. Give or take, something like that. And
Yeah.
if they were really, against, not against, but like if they were really, if their goal was to, really wanted to raise awareness and really actually care about what they say and what they're talking about, I was basically giving them the other ultimatum, which is, the other extreme of that version, I guess, which is to just kind of, then just leave and then encourage other people to leave because of these horrible facts that happened and history that this country was built on and whatever. If you don't
Right.
like it that much, then just leave and then get other people to leave with you. That's better than, you know, spending one day at home sitting and watching TV instead of, you know, I don't know. To me it just felt like,
That's what it sounded like, right? When you read it.
yeah, it just sounded like they were just craving for attention.
Okay. So
So that's why I was against it.
my I see what you like. I guess I know her, and I know what she does. I
Oh,
know
this is
her
your
on a
friend.
I know her on a personal level. I do, yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't know.
That's okay. It shouldn't matter, right? It shouldn't matter. But
Okay.
because I do know her and I know what this post stands for, it's not turning your back on the day of celebration of this nation and then reaping all the benefits every other day of the year. Where they're just, I'm not gonna, paint my face red, wear red, and do fireworks today because this country sucks, but I'm gonna reap all the benefits of being here. No. I mean, so because I know her, I guess this is privileged information, but she is like, very like feminist and like Black Lives Matter and like very much social justice, and she studied, I think, like, yeah, like civilization, social. I can't. I would be a
Anthropology.
disservice for me to try anthropology. Yeah, but I mean, like, also like where she took it. Like she's very much into like making a difference and changing like the community and
Yeah.
educating people and making people socially aware of the actual issues that we're facing here in Canada, like for women, for Black people, for racialized people, for natives, all of that, proponent of all that. And this is like what she lives on a daily
It's
basis.
her job.
So this is her job.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not one day where she's just turning her back and then using her privilege. It's actually being able to take what Canada has given her so that she could educate people on a daily basis and like make change, actually pursue change for Canada. And but what Canada Day stands for right now, and even if you just look at what Canada Day is, your example was like, what's one day going to achieve, right? Like, what's one day of turning your back? But so my example before you got here was like, well, what's one day of painting your face red and doing fireworks and having a pint or something on a patio? What does that do for the nation? Too, like,
Nothing.
why?
It's just a holiday. That's all
it's
it is.
Yeah, it's a holiday celebrating what
Yeah.
then? It's about when Canada became a country, right?
Right.
As specific of when Canada was established after an invasion of colonization and assimilation of signing a constitution of now claiming this land belongs
Is
to them
ours.
now. Yeah. So that's what it's
Right, right.
celebrating, but off of what happened. So like this day doesn't
So-
represent all our privileges and all the opportunity and all the diversification and that we've immigrated and made something of ourselves. This is not what this day actually represents. Like,
Well, if that didn't happen, we wouldn't be here, right? So in a sense,
Yeah,
it kind
you're
of
right.
is.
It
So
kind
in
of-
a sense, it kind of is celebrating that,
right.
right?
But the choice to celebrate or not doesn't matter.
I know, but it just seems like I don't know, man. It's like that doesn't. To me, that's the part that doesn't make sense to me, right? Like if you lived your entire life in the land that you like, that now you are, like sort of like not proud of whatever because of these recent things, but you've lived in it your entire life and you were raised in it your entire life. It's kind of like.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It seems hypocritical, right? It's like,
Yeah.
For me, just like I said before, because you probably weren't there, my too long didn't read was Canada Day is not necessarily just like it's like okay to be patriotic, but to also acknowledge the dark histories of the past. That's my too long didn't read about Canada Day. Like it's not necessarily about the celebration of Canada like as a nation. It's like okay to be patriotic and like be proud of being, being part of the country, but the whole reason of why people want to not celebrate it or cancel Canada Day is, for me, this is what I get out of it. It's like it's more appropriate now, given the times, to more so acknowledge the dark history as opposed to celebrate this nation that thrived,
It's built off of that dark
built off
history.
of
Yeah.
that dark
Like
history.
how old is Canada
Acknowledgement
now?
matters.
How
To
old is
me,
Canada
the
now?
acknowledgement matters.
Let's
So,
say.
Over 150.
Those-
120 is my guess.
So
so is the thing? Are you?
152.
Oh, that's it. Wow.
150.
Yeah, so 152. So out of 151 years of celebrating all the great stuff, I mean, maybe a year or like not even, or whatever, how long she's decided to stop when she found out what it was. I guess it
Like
doesn't
if you're
hurt
gonna do
to
that, the better thing
acknowledge.
to do is to actually work on maybe getting a different day that actually acknowledges those instead of trying to cancel. Like, you know what I mean? Like that
I
way
think
you
it's
have
one of those. It's one of those things where saying
like
cancel Canada Day is like
yeah, it's
I'm
like
not
it's
for
a
that either.
It's a misunderstanding.
Yeah,
People
I'm
are
not for it
misunderstanding
either.
what can.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
maybe the
misunderstanding to take it
maybe-
as it is. It's like
yeah
saying Black Lives Matter and Black Lives Matter
And all
too.
lives
It's
matter.
like a,
yeah
Yeah,
it's a misunderstanding. Saying cancel
Yeah.
Canada Day doesn't
yeah
necessarily mean cancel everything about Canada and don't be patriotic and reject everything about Canada.
right
So
right.
it's
That's
just
what
a bad
that's what my
choice in
Oolong is reading.
Yeah,
hashtags.
but
Yeah.
then the post was like, I stopped celebrating Canada Day / canceled Canada Day. So I was like, get out of here, man. Like you've been living your entire life in
Yeah,
Canada,
but-
and now because
No,
of
but she
what
said
you
she stopped when she found out about all of this stuff.
yes, that's what I mean though. Like
So-
if you actually want to raise an awareness instead of trying to get rid of Canada Day, maybe it's better to come up with another day that's wholly dedicated to the actual history instead of trying to like it just
Oh,
seems I don't know.
Okay, even that statement you just said, give them another day, right? It's almost like, okay, so the entire year of an academic year, we can teach Canadian history, and then you get one day to talk about what actually happened. And it's almost like Black History Month. The entire year of education in school, you're hearing about American history, and they get 1 month to focus on Black history. But all of that's history. All of it's together. It's all one. Canada Day, that's part of it.
Kind of
To get a separate day to look at the dark, but it's part of it. You just said it's part
I'll
of
also
it.
give
Like,
you I'll also give you another fact.
I guess my point was kind of just, instead of trying to get rid of something, like to
I don't
make
think she
it
was.
seem like to make it seem like, well, that's the problem of the wording though, right? Like that's
Oh yeah,
if
the
anyone
hashtag's
else reads
horrible.
that
I
who
hate the.
doesn't
I hate.
know this person in person, they are going to take it the way that I took it.
That's fine. I agree. I don't.
I know,
I don't
but-
argue that. Yeah.
So I'll give you a fact. So this is very directly related to why people are choosing this day to think about it, is because when was Canada Day is about independence, right? So when Independence Day happened, who was the first prime minister? John A. Macdonald, right?
Yep.
Who was John A. Macdonald was the prime minister who put out the Indian Act, which directly started the residential schools. So this
Yeah,
is very
that's
this
true.
is very related to
Canada Day. It happened
particular.
today.
Oh,
Yeah, John A. McDonald is also quoted to say, he has that nasty quote of saying, "Kill the Indian, save the child."
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why people are thinking about.
And I don't think
That's
cancel
why it's
Canada
happening
Day
today.
meant indefinitely. I don't think it meant indefinitely either. It's more like cancel what it has stood for without all this not knowing, like this, like.
I would avoid
and
saying cancel altogether. That's why
I don't like
say,
the word cancel, but
acknowledge, just
yeah.
acknowledge the darkness.
Yeah.
Because you understand as long as there's so many people that don't even know, right? Like I was at my clinic, my patient is like watching the news they're talking about residential schools, and he's like, "Oh, why are they so bothered? It happened so long ago."
When I first
But it wasn't-
when I
it
see
wasn't
the thing
long
is
ago.
it's like an
It
encampment.
was not that long ago,
Right? When even the word when I first heard residential schools, I was like, oh, so like homeschooled? That's what I thought it meant.
Yeah.
Right? Because why are you always giving all these like friendly terms, just like colonization instead of invasion? You know, like
So that's why I think that's why I
homicide.
think it's
So
appropriate to learn about all this stuff now, or like, that's why it's good that all this stuff is happening, is because people will learn. Because
yeah.
even us as immigrants, when we come here, like I went through the school here, but let's say my parents, they probably don't know what happened with why do they care about Canadian
But
history?
everybody learns it in school, right? Like in high school
Yeah,
and stuff.
Not
but
about this that would
I don't think
recently
so.
happen. I didn't
Well,
know
Not all
I-
these
about
graves. I didn't know about
You
these
didn't-
okay,
graves.
so
You didn't know
us,
how Canada came to be in high
N-
school?
yeah, I know.
They didn't teach you that in high school?
they
Oh,
did they did teach.
Are you telling me
Okay,
they
so-
taught you that hundreds of graves were found unnamed at outside schools?
Well, no, I'm talking about in general. Like you didn't know that we took over like Indians, Native Indians, to make Canada Canada.
Well, that's what
Did you not know
colonization
that?
is. We talked about that.
Well,
but yeah.
Think
I
about
know,
it
but
this way: we're
But
also very
everybody knows
biased.
that.
But think
Yeah.
about it this way: we're all us five here in this conversation now. We're biased because we went through the school system here, but most of the people in Canada are immigrants. They don't know, right? In fact, they probably don't even care.
Is over it
don't
and
know.
sugar coated.
It's true.
How?
Oh, I'm just saying.
The word murder was
Like,
never
you're tell-
used. The word rape was never used. The word like none of that was used in school to say what happened.
Like I never like what I mentioned at the beginning of the
So
cast.
then, okay, go ahead.
I was saying like what surprised me about this and what makes it it stands out is because as much as I knew about how shitty residential schools were, I just never figured that like this many kids and women and men like this, but mainly kids, right? Like this many kids would have been murdered in the schools. In
buried
my
in the
head,
schools.
they were assimilated and sent back to their
Reserves.
God, what's it called? The reserves, yeah.
Yeah.
And but so I find out here, I'm like, hold on, so there's a school with like hundreds of these graves. So that's surprising to me that there's hundreds of dead kids next to the school, and then another school, and then another school. And so I'm sitting there like, okay, I knew it was bad, but I didn't think it was this bad. And so it's a shock. And so what I was saying earlier is that knowing this, like there's no way I could be happy about Canada Day just knowing this. So for me, it's more like a moment of silence for all the kids, because celebrating, as Mike said, John A. Macdonald and the first prime minister and the Indian Act, and right. So it seems terrible to me. I couldn't do it.
Can I say one thing too?
I think I will reflect every Canada Day as well.
Yeah.
Does that mean I will never celebrate Canada Day? No, but I must reflect. Maybe I'll take a drink for him.
The moment of silence thing, it totally it summarizes it and really well. It's not necessary. Yeah, it summarizes it really well. Take a moment of silence as opposed to be overtly celebrating.
and okay, so sorry, I do want to say two things. The moment of silence thing, she said in the post, take today, I hope today everyone here in Canada is reflexive of what has happened and everything that has happened to bring us here. Like to reflect on it. She didn't say, yeah, the hashtag's cancel and whatever, like no to genocide or something. But like the hashtag isn't the point. Like she's like, take today to reflect on what actually happened. Don't just go out on a patio and have a Canada flag on your back, paint your face red and drink. It's reflect, or the moment of silence. That's the one point that I want to make. Second, yes, Day. We know how colonization works, where Europeans or Catholics come into a new land that doesn't belong to them, and for them to take over, they have to pillage and like invade and take over.
Yeah,
right?
That was my point. You thought they just asked him, "Hey, can you leave?" And then they
No,
just
no.
left. Obviously,
but
bad
dude,
things happen.
But the dude, look at Thanksgiving, like Columbus, and like the whole like dinner with the turkey and like trading of goods and back and forth. Like it's like this friendly agreement that yes, we've brought you a new life and you're going to welcome us here and we're gonna prosper together, because the natives didn't prosper together. The natives were put in little circles and little areas, and they were kept there and made and left there to fail. But all of the colonization part too was way before 1867 or whatever it was, Constitution, independence. Like that already happened. There was a spread
I
already. It was
mean,
already Ontario. There was already like Quebec or what. Like cities were established. Like civilizations were already starting to develop. And then you sign this thing this day, and that's when, okay, you know what? Now let's go into those reserves that we've set up, and let's take a bunch of those kids and make them like us, and we're gonna take them from their parents. No, they're not. Their parents aren't gonna have a choice. We're just gonna
well,
take them, and then for those that don't follow, either if they don't make it and they don't go back, we'll just kill them and then bury them, or they'll starve, or they'll all
so
of the
the reason
horrible
why
things.
so the reason why I understand. I understand what you're saying, but the reason why it doesn't really, I guess, hit me as hard as it does for some other people is because it's not like before, like, we came
Knowing,
and invaded the natives. It's not like they were all peaceful people either. They had different tribes that took over different tribes, and they had people who killed those tribes and take over those people and
yeah, that
take
happens
those
all over the
lands.
world.
It's the
Yeah,
same thing. So
yeah.
to me, it's like, yeah, okay. I'm not disregarding the fact that they or like I'm not ignoring that happened. I'm just trying to figure out why it's so like they did the same thing to other tribes, and they were the last ones, I guess, that were there before we took over. They were the
Okay.
stronger ones. So
Yeah.
like, why is it such a big deal that
Like it's all part of colonization. It happened everywhere
it's
in the
just
world, right?
it's the circle of life? I don't know. That's the way that both
Yeah.
acts are bad. I understand, but I'm saying they didn't like if they didn't bother doing that to their lesser whatever tribes that they killed and murdered and raped or whatever. Why why does it
So
matter?
so
Would it
I
shock you
so
to know that a lot of communities, like a lot of Inuits, were not warring? Like they just
I
there were
think
lived.
it's more
nomads
it's
even
more of
too.
like just like it's just like it is what it is. Like
It
it
happened.
happened because these
Yeah,
things
it's
happen because
history.
it's a
Yeah.
natural progression of how
Yeah.
I'm
things
just I'm
happen.
just telling you
So
that look like up north. There were Thule and there were Dorset. These are like the two branches where Inuit come from that crossed the Bering Strait.
Yeah, but
This
was
is
that
like
the
this is like
beginning
a
of
thousand
the
years ago. But um, the Dorset basically spread
well,
across, and they weren't
that's
after they weren't conquered for like hundreds of years. There wasn't any pillaging. It was just, I mean, I guess, but to say the same thing happened is man, I can't agree with you there.
okay, well, if
Because like
even
a
if
people could
even if
exist for hundreds of years, and then look what happened in like 100 years from colonization, like from touchdown. It's like a lot of fucked up shit happened to these people.
but can I ask, do you think it is like a Canadian citizen's duty to celebrate today?
no.
Why is
If they
there a
don't want
duty
to,
to
they don't have to.
celebrate?
What?
Okay, so if she
It's
doesn't want to, why does she have to leave?
Because I understood that post as in she was trying to get rid of Canada Day.
Like she said, I haven't celebrated Canada Day since she found out. And yeah, the hashtag is cancel Canada Day, but that's the hashtag. I
There
mean,
you go.
whoever made that, she didn't make it, but that's the hashtag. But she
Yeah, but
said
even for her,
she's
even for
she
her to follow that hashtag is like,
well, that's what this hashtag stands for. It's a stupid hashtag, just like Black Lives Matters is a really stupid way of saying Black Lives Matter too. But it's a hashtag. Whoever created it, and that's what's trending. You go with it. But she said she stopped once she learned, and everyone should take today to reflect on what happened. So choosing not to celebrate like everyone else is celebrating, whatever democracy or diversity or opportunity and all that stuff. Choosing not to celebrate doesn't mean she's not grateful for everything she's had growing up every single day of her life here. If she did, or I don't think she was born here, but like, you know what I mean? It's not like taking for granted what was given to her here. it's acknowledging, yeah, it's basically like the national anthem at a football game where people wanted to kneel instead of stand. It's like people look at that and like, how dare you? How dare you not stand for the national anthem that happens every game or whatever? So this is the birthday of the country, which again makes no difference. Anyone's individual action makes no difference to anything. But so like you can't take it from one side and be like, if you're gonna do that, you should go. But then if you celebrate, then okay, then you're cool. It's like celebrate or not. It's up to you. It's your life. You don't have to.
Celebrate
not-
or not is up to you. But again, this was before I found out that she does this for a living, and like, you know, she actually puts in the effort to, you know, put the message out across to her community as her job every day. So
But
when I
even if
just
you post
based
that,
on information,
what if I posted that on my wall? So
then I'd be
what does
like,
that
"You're
make me?
stupid."
I posted it on my wall. I posted it on my stories because I agree with her. So
So do you have a community that you actively put out a message to about this every single day, and not
do
just
I have
today?
do I have to do it every day?
You should. If you strongly believe in such a message, why not?
Well, how often have we talked about residential schools before today?
That's what I mean.
I have. I'm a proponent for what we've found out. I don't think it's right, and I'm not gonna stop today. I'm not gonna
I've
stop
never heard
talking
you
about
talk this today.
Okay, that's fine. That's okay. Doesn't mean that I haven't. Like,
Right, but I'm saying like that's why
do I have to
I
prove
would
that to you?
assume that.
Like, should I have to prove that to you if I posted on my
No.
story today that, oh look, this is my history and this is why I can post this today. I don't have to, and you or anybody. But if I believe in it, why can I not post that on my platform? Because it's what I
I don't
believe.
have any problem with you posting it on your platform. The problem is, the problem that I have is the one with people who chooses those specific days to just kind of join the crowd and then just go on their like everyday whatever for the remaining of the year. That's the
I-
problem that I have with not
I-
not specifically people like that are like this friend of yours who does it for as her job as an everyday part of the thing. That's great. The reason why I got ticked off was because I thought from the post that you posted was
That it
this
was a
random
1 day
person.
thing, 1 day care.
Yeah. So then I was
Okay.
like, that's stupid.
Do you know people
That's
like
when
that?
a lot of people.
Okay.
Lot of people.
that does happen though. Yeah.
Okay,
I see a lot
okay.
of people are like that. Yeah. Especially
Yeah.
on Instagram.
That's the
They
majority
just
of
jump-
the people.
They
and that's
jump on
why-
the bandwagon, right?
bandwagon. Exactly.
I'm thinking of one person in particular too. It's not my friend. It's like a somebody my cousins and them know. But
See, but-
yeah, very much like that. Like a one time. It's like whatever's trending. It's like their stance. And
Right.
then
Right. Yeah.
Every day it's something else, and yeah.
Well, it's like saying-
definitely people do that.
Happy peanut butter and jelly day. It's like fuck with all these extra days, siblings days, and like spaghetti days or whatever. Mike also said too that there's other people who take it to the other extreme, where they were like, you said you saw people in Alberta who posted Happy
Mhm.
Canada Day specifically as an attack
Trigger-
to
yeah,
trigger
as an
that
attack.
as the opposite
So-
side.
So my part of my too long didn't read is to still be patriotic, but having a comment like Happy Canada Day on a post that talks about residential schools is more of an attack comment as opposed to actually celebrating patriotism. You know what I mean? The intent
definitely.
behind it is different.
Yeah.
The intent behind the message is different.
Like replying to our friend's post and saying
Yeah.
Happy
Happy
Canada
Canada
Day, happy face, lol.
Yeah, and like a flag
Yeah.
or
It
something.
would be more like
Yeah.
That would
It
be-
more like
That would be bad, and that exists apparently, right? You
Hey,
saw.
man, we're not in Alberta. That's a different province out there.
Yeah.
People think differently out there. So
And Day, I'm not like persecuting you. You can continue to believe. Obviously, we know this in this group. We're not like angry at each other, be like, "Oh my god, how dare you!" It's just you can still think the same way, and it's fair if you didn't know her and you assumed, let's say that, or maybe she was. Maybe I don't know her, and she just did it for the day. But I read it, and it inspired me to share it because I think about it more than once a year, or I've thought about it on a number of occasions. So it's like, if that inspiration happened, if this random person who doesn't really care for the rest of the year, who's just jumping on the bandwagon, posts something, but then someone who does care or someone who it does impact reads it, follows that person and reads it and finds out and learns about it, that's a good to me. I think that's positive. I'd rather that. I'd rather the awareness go widespread, even if it's empty on some people. But I'd rather it go widespread than be ignored and not known. And like, yeah, ignorance. I don't want ignorance to continue. That's all.
That's fair.
Yeah.
So
I think in that way, I agree, because, like, yeah, you have the people who just post, and
It's just I'm
there's
so
like a-
tired of those people, man. That's why.
yeah,
like,
there's like a social justice culture.
yeah, you just
out
unfollow
right
them,
now,
right? I
Yeah.
don't, yeah.
Yeah, there's like a social justice culture, but if they don't post these things, there's certain things that I don't know or don't experience. Like we don't know what it's like to be out there in the reserves, or what it's like to be in Alberta, or what it's like to be in other parts of the country. So these posts, it helps awareness. Or I mean, if you have a closed mind, and if you think a certain way, then you think a certain way. But for me it helps, because I'd like to think of myself as open. I have my opinions. I'll think about it.
like like those people that are like I support animal rights. That's why I eat
They
fish.
don't do anything. Yeah, yeah.
It's
Or
like-
they do something
And-
that's inconsequential.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
dude, like I don't
Yeah,
know. If you're gonna
yeah.
do that, just go full vegan, like don't
It's
I think
tough,
good
man.
It's good to at least know. So if there's a change that you think you can do that makes your conscience feel better, or however, then you can do it. But if just before the residential school news came out, no one really cared. Like we all know about it, but we all don't really know about it. Like
Yeah.
no one acts on it.
We
At
just
least
figured
with
it was bad.
Yeah, but at least now with more confirmation of deaths, and it's more in people's minds. If there's ever a chance where you can make a change, then maybe that one person or two, maybe we can act on it.
like
Because
what,
there's
what,
more
what
knowledge there.
exactly is this change that that you hope for? Like are you hoping that the next time we find some land and we decide to invade it, quote unquote Mars, that you just kind of go and ask the people who live there, like just like, hey, we can work together and then not kill them or whatever? Like
Hold on,
what is
we gotta
the
get
ultimate
rid of
like thing that we're trying to do by remembering them and taking a moment of silence? Like what does that do? What does
I have
it do?
one thing. So, a change that I would like to see across Canada and hopefully America too, are a change in mindset from anyone that doesn't like Indigenous people. There are a lot of people that just think that they are like a nuisance on society. Like all they do is just drink and rob people and stab people, and they all have knives, and there's just no good people. And this is a mentality that definitely exists across Canada, and maybe to practice developing some empathy for a people that you don't really know about, maybe knowing the history would help change some minds out there. Because like yeah, like just growing up where I grew up, I didn't really know anything. I was sort of brainwashed, and I think a lot of people were sort of brainwashed, right? If your parents just as you're growing up, and they point out that guy's a native. Oh, look at him, he's fucking drunk all the time, and that's what all the natives are like. And you grow up with this mentality, you are going to develop racism, and you're going to hate all the natives. You're going to hate all the Indigenous people, and yeah, I mean, it's a very common thing. Like they get free education, and all they do is drink, and all they do is drugs, and there's just none of them are good. I would like to see that change, and it would be a huge change, a very welcome change, and something like this that shines light on how devastating these residential schools really were, and the whole process of colonization effect it had on our Indigenous peoples. Like, man, we have 3 groups of Indigenous peoples in Canada. When you hear FNMI, there's First Nations. They're different to the Inuit. They're different from the Métis. We had 3 groups of Indigenous peoples that were all fucked up. And I think that it's knowledge and awareness, and that develops empathy. And I think it can have a really positive effect if just more people, more people just learn the truth, and maybe they can self-reflect and be like, oh man, like I grew up my whole life just thinking all Indigenous people were shit. Maybe I should change how I think.
Yeah. I think that the empathy and the knowledge is what'll help the most from what's happening. Just like with any kind of racism, it's like racism in the States, it's like you talk about, it's like, oh, you have all these stereotypes of these certain people, but without thinking about what has happened to them in the past that put them there. So knowing all this stuff, it helps empathize. Yeah, just like what Kyle was saying with empathy. Because I heard it too. Like, I went to when Kyle, were you there? I went to a powwow with Warren.
No, y'all told me about it.
Damn, we went to a powwow, and then like everyone at work, it was saying,
I would love to have
manager.
gone though.
Yeah, she was like, yeah, they're telling me to be careful.
Yeah, look at like that notion with the powwow, but then you get St. Patrick's Day, and it's like, hell yeah, party, drink.
Yeah, like you're safe going to like a bar and drinking everything that, but
yeah, it's a double standard, right? Like,
yeah. Or if it is dangerous, why is it dangerous? Like why are they in that position? Or like why do they act that way? Or you know what I mean? Like
Who's
the history
dangerous?
helps. Huh?
Who's dangerous?
Like the stereotype is that, the First Nations people are like
They'll
sketchy,
stab you.
dangerous. Yeah,
They'll stab you and they'll rob you.
yeah.
Really?
Yeah, if you go to certain places, especially out west, or like not west as in BC, but like the prairie states are really bad.
Yeah.
I mean,
some of the people I met out in
one of the reserves that when I was in middle school for like the missionary or whatever, they were completely fine. They had homes, they had buildings, they had a community gym and everything. They had food. And then I remember specifically asking them. So like, like what do you? They don't need they have no what's the word? Ambition or greed, I guess, because they kind of have everything that they want. They have money, they have free stuff, they had all the latest stuff that I didn't have at the time. So I thought my impression of them was like, oh wow, they're like actually like in better spot than I am, because they had things that I probably because school.
I mean, Ren may have a point there.
Probably a bias because they wouldn't bring middle schools to other places.
To other places. Yeah, like there's other reserves that are not as nice. There's good reserves, and I've heard there are some pretty shitty reserves out there.
I see.
Yeah.
It could be like, when you go visit North Korea and then they set everything up to look amazing, and you're like, fucking North Korea is awesome, man.
I will never ever step foot in that.
You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not saying it's just like that.
Yeah.
But it might be.
If there's any place to invade that country.
I'd say it's more like sending middle school children to South Korea, but there's other reserves like North Korea.
Oh, I mean, kind of.
You know what I mean? Because you were talking about how the tech that they have, right? But other reserves, I've heard
same country.
Some reserves aren't really, aren't that great.
They well
and that's
know
where the stereotypes come from, right?
Well, I mean, we're in this school. Was that school a Catholic school? What school is this?
No, it was church. I went from church.
A church thing. Oh, well, that just makes even more sense.
Even more sense.
Of course, the church is not going to bring you to like
somewhere dangerous,
somewhere that is truly reflective of what the church did to these people. They're going to bring you to make you think that
the church was good.
They are amazing and had a great effect on these people. So now everything you just said makes sense.
Yeah, because our thing was at the time, it was like one of those like you go there and then you like I had to read them like the Bible passage.
Oh god!
Oh man!
And like I had to like convince them that God exists.
Oh
Mind
no!
you, this was when I was in like grade
How
8.
dare
okay?
you.
I didn't know anything. I went because my parents told me to go. Sharon went too. I remember.
Yeah,
Anyway.
she told me.
Oh, you were a missionary. Okay.
I
Yeah.
was.
That's exactly what I thought when she told me. I'm like, oh, you're one of those.
Yeah, I didn't know
One
what that
of
was.
those.
I was told to go, so I was like, I just went.
But
and then-
you know what I would say? Okay, this is me defending like Catholic Church and religion in general. Doesn't have to be the Catholic Church, but I guess that's what is relative to this. Have you guys ever heard of the Stanford prison experiment?
No.
Yeah.
Oh
That's
wait,
so
yes,
good.
yes, I have. Yes.
Yeah, so you just put I think what happened, this is my theory in my head, non-scientific, not objective at all, very subjective. I think how the government set up the residential schools and how the Catholic was placed to, like how everything was set up systematically has caused what would eventually happen to the residential schools. So the intent, obviously, was to assimilate these kids or whatever. But when you have like a residential school in the middle of nowhere and you give power to these, whoever is the nuns and the teachers in the school, you give them all the power in the world and you give them one directive, then you have things like that happening. You have some
Abuses of
really
power.
weird, abuses of power happening.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. On top of that, it's not even just like regular prisoners. It's not even regular, prisoners or students or whatever. It's like kids that were taken from their home. So the things that were happening was they're trying to run away, even though like,
Traumatized.
yeah, they're trying to run away. They're suicidal. And in the Stanford experiment, like
They don't
these
speak
were
English.
these were normal people, so sure you can blame, like it's hard to blame. You know what I would say? It's because you're blaming Catholic. Yeah. There's like I think there's something in like human or the psychology or the human nature that has brought that kind of thing, and the situation that has brought out what happened in the residential schools. It's not necessarily a Catholic thing because we were never taught to abuse people and rape people, right? Is that in the Bible? Like to teach us to rape people and, molest and kill? Like we're not taught to do that, in religion in general.
Mm.
So how can you blame a religion for what happened in residential school? Well, yeah, I would like, I understand the asking for the apology, but to blame, like there's nothing in the teachings that explains what happened there. So to me, it's more of what was put in place in the beginning.
But
I think you underestimate the marriage of church and state.
I also want to say though too, even if it wasn't in the teachings, the silence after the committal, like not actually punishing or like making them have to pay for what they did,
Who's gonna make them do that?
well, if the church is the ones who put them there, and then those individuals did those wrong, why isn't the church doing anything to reprimand? The church was the one who put them there.
No,
So,
yeah, I understand.
It's the church's responsibility to at least acknowledge what it was, or at least punish those who did it, and then like not hide it. It's just like any priest who molests any kind of altar boy. Why don't we know about more of them rather than these victims coming, like finally saying something? But then you get even those movies where all these victims did come and say something, and the church made every effort to keep them quiet because they don't want to admit to the shit, right? Like they don't want to be associated with that. But that's not the right thing to do. Like
Even if they were to admit, I guess who would be the one to, who's big enough to
prosecute, to punish
Yeah,
them? Yeah,
who's gonna do
because
that? Nobody's
because
gonna
the
do that.
two organizations that
Yeah.
set up the residential schools are the government and the church.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The two
Exactly.
people that would
So
be giving
nobody's
the
gonna
punishment.
punish them.
So,
They're
you're
never
right.
gonna do that.
Therefore, it's
Yeah.
like, why isn't there? Is it just a moral responsibility then, right? It's simple enough as a moral responsibility. If
Mhm.
the institution has now become more of an identity beyond the individual who set it up, it's weird. It's like we
And
have
that's kind of that kind of circles back to my point. Like even if this, moment of silence and all that changes people's perspectives, who is going to be the one that actually carries out the prosecution? They don't exist. I'm not
so should we
saying
just not?
I'm not saying that makes it right. That's not what I'm saying.
Should nothing be done?
I'm saying it's irrelevant because nothing will get done anyway.
I don't know about that.
I think there's value. There's
what will
value
get
in the
done?
knowledge. I think there's value in the knowledge.
Okay, so
Dude,
about it,
protest
great,
happen.
but
Like
then
you've
what?
seen that. You've seen when people feel injustice, people stand up, rally together, and protest.
Uh-huh.
I don't like
And those are the
protests.
people that are gonna get shot first.
You're right. There's martyrs. There's martyrs, dude. Like people died for things they believed in.
What? Like, it just, I don't know, man. It just seems
Useless.
yes,
A waste of
and
effort.
a waste of time.
Nothing will change. That seems
it's-
seems defeated for me. Like I feel like I'm on the
it's-
optimistic side where I feel like things can change. Things can always change.
Well, then I mean, honestly, when that happens, that will be the day. Because please prove me wrong. I
Dude, slavery was normal. Slavery was normal. It was like cool to have a slave.
Yeah, to say there was no change is like, I mean, given the 100, with the
200
slave thing being
years.
gone.
Yeah. Like
yeah, but that's because those they those people still exist with us, right? Like in our community, they're part of our community now, right? Like it's like you like
I want to have
those
native friends. I'd like to have some native friends. Just saying.
I mean, yeah, sure, but like,
Look at Pocahontas, man. We were talking about the
Oh my
word.
god.
We were talking about the word savages earlier. One of the songs in the movie is "Savages."
Called savages.
Yeah.
all the same as Nazis and how people are just doing their job. Chains are the ones running the laws. Huh? It's along the same lines as Nazis and how people were just doing their job. People that should change are the ones running their laws now. Yes, I agree, but they're not going to.
But dude, it's why
unless
do
there's a big enough
dude
unless there's a big enough crowd to
support
against
to
them.
push it? Yeah, man. But that's how we elect. That's what democracy's supposed to be. Like we elect someone who believes in what the mass believes, and then hopefully they'll do something about it.
So that's why you picked Biden, huh?
We didn't pick Biden.
We
We're in
didn't-
Canada.
We didn't pick anything, dude. We didn't pick anybody there.
You know what I'm saying. It's a figure of speech. It's
So tell me, are you more proud to be there, or were you more proud to be here?
I don't care where I'm at. As long as I got my dough, I'm good. I don't
Capitalism
care.
or democracy?
It's the same.
It doesn't affect me.
There's
As
capitalism
long as
and
I get-
democracy.
As long
I
as
know.
I get my dough, it's irrelevant. That's the truth.
Okay.
And
But I'm just like, it's good to know this stuff, because if there's any, like the goal of any society is to try to improve, right? Like we may not see it, in like a small scale within a year or two, or even within our lifetimes, but
Yeah.
in the long run, as long as there's like even incremental improvement in lives or morals or in anything, then it's worth it. And that's why knowing these things, knowing history, can help, whether it doesn't or not. If there's a step backwards, sometimes that happens, but it's good to know. It's better than accepting that. It's better than being, to me, it's being better than being like pessimistic about it, like, oh, this is shit anyway, so I'm not gonna do anything about it.
Right.
is that being pessimistic or is that accepting reality?
Realistic? Well, I don't.
Yeah, there's accepting
Well,
reality is fine.
That's
but to,
That's
like,
predicting, like as if you think nothing will change, though. But even
Yeah.
history
But
doesn't
it's-
even show that nothing changes. It just
Yes,
takes a long
exactly.
time. It just takes a long time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like even take for example this podcast too. Like, yeah, we don't have a huge following or listeners or people who watch this after, maybe, but it's gonna be there, and it's gonna be a source of at least the debate, so people can take a side, so it could be a discussion, and it's not something that could just be not discussed and like not even ignored, but just ignorant of. You know, we took part in the discussion, so we've contributed already. Not to say that it stops here, hopefully, but it like if it falls on ears of someone who just rides the bandwagon, then that's useless. But if it falls on the ears of somebody who actually is driven to make change and eventually makes something and gets to a position of power, maybe even a political type of thing where they can make legislative change, that's good. If a native ends up
I mean,
getting to a position of power,
if someone with that kind of mindset happens to be someone with that kind of power, then great. Yeah, that's great. But
it's possible.
the chance of that happening, plus also the chance,
Not zero.
It's
yes, but also the chance of that person listening to that and acting on it, and then he or she gets to even higher level of power and does not get corrupted in whatsoever. That is like for me, it's
but it's
like
happened.
it's uh,
It's already happened a number of
I mean,
times.
yeah, maybe unless we have another Gandhi or something, then yeah, I guess. But
Even in other countries, you know, when
I
you have a tyrant leader, and then you know there's a change in leadership, or maybe there's a coup, or I don't know. Countries figure out a way to like, yeah, even like new countries when they revolt and
I mean,
hit their own independence, right? Like where South
yeah.
Africa was the apartheid or something like that. Like,
Listen, I have nothing against people who are hopeful and optimistic. I just for me personally, like that kind of thing is the last thing on my mind.
yeah,
Like it's like I don't really care. To be frank, I
oh,
don't, because it doesn't really affect my everyday life. And yeah, maybe that's like for me, it's like selfish to say, but that's honestly how I feel. And if that makes me a horrible person, then so be it. But honestly, it doesn't affect my everyday life. Like I don't think about it when I get up in the morning, and I don't think about it before I go to bed.
right.
Yeah, I can have a reminder on Canada Day, maybe to yes, like acknowledge and all that. That's great. But to take that into something else and even like go beyond to try and like make change or about that fact, like I have like my level of interest is very minimal for me to like even imagine that kind of thing, you
So
know?
does it not even make you more sensitive now if you were to
No,
encounter a native?
no, then I'll just be like, oh, it's a native. It's not
But it's
gonna
not
make a
like
difference.
you're not gonna
I'm
be
not
like, hey,
gonna.
I'm sorry for what happened to your people. You're not gonna say
Yeah,
that.
like, that's not gonna happen.
But
Like
it's
it's
like,
it'll I'll.
okay, well, when you found out what slavery was,
Mhm.
I know
It's just like
it doesn't
it's
affect
just
your
like
life,
yeah,
but you
it's just
think
like when I
about
meet.
it. You thought
Yeah,
about it,
of
right? You
course. Yeah,
compared your life to how one could have lived during that time, right? Like,
I have, and it would have honestly, like, excuse my language, it would have sucked if I was
of
on the other
course,
end of that. But
yeah,
that doesn't change my perspective of my black friends. They're my friends. That's
yeah,
all it is. Like
because you're already
I don't
cool.
yeah, I don't pity them, and I don't like feel sorry for them because of what their ancestors had to go through. That's their ancestors. That's not them. That's not the person that I know. If I knew their ancestor some way,
Okay,
yeah, then I would feel horrible, but that's not the case.
right. Do you have any black friends that
And
struggle to get through the system, or do you have any
yes.
black friends that faced racism? And then,
Yes.
okay. Do you feel
Yes.
bad when they do?
I do, but it's like they that doesn't really
That example for me is like
that doesn't change really who they are to me, you know? Like
but it's awareness. You'd rather know
Yes.
than not know, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That example is like you know systematically the struggles that they go through, even if it's
Mhm.
the past. Even your friends now are struggling the same way. That's where the knowledge helps, because if you have a black friend and gets pulled over by a cop and he's scared, if you're in the car and you have a black friend with you and you get pulled over and he's scared, if you didn't know,
Why?
you would say stuff like, "Hey man, why are you scared?" Don't.
It'll be fine.
You'd be dismissing their feelings. You know what I mean?
Mm.
It's not understanding or empathizing. It's more like you might dismiss
Oblivious. You
how
might be
they feel.
oblivious,
Yeah.
Right,
to
right.
what they're
I-
feeling. Yeah.
I get that, and of course I would be, I would feel, I would feel sorry, but that's where it ends.
That's cool.
Mhm.
That's
Yeah,
no,
but
but-
it's
that's
but
exactly. But
that's
that's
a little
where
bit.
that's the
my
difference.
point.
Yeah, but that's where the difference is even with this example, is like we know the history of it and why things are the way they are now, or why they feel the way they do now, whether it's whatever race you are. But if you didn't know, you might be dismissing their feelings, and that already is such a small difference.
Just good to know.
That
Yeah.
is good to know. That's why it's good to know these things.
If it stops there for
Yeah,
you,
get-
that's fine. It's done. Like that's still an increment.
It's the difference between you understanding how they feel and you dismissing their feelings. I guess that's a way to summarize it, or be more concise.
So the difference is that you can relate. Is that what the important part is?
It's
You don't have to relate.
there's understanding and empathy on your part. Because if you didn't understand, like if
Well,
you
what
didn't
does
know
that-
the history and why they feel that
but
way, then
but what does that accomplish? That doesn't change anything.
Empathy?
it doesn't change. Yeah, it doesn't change anything.
It doesn't change
But
anything.
it's
They're
just an
still gonna
added
go
stress.
through what they
I would
go through
argue
every
it
day.
does though.
Empathy makes a change, dude.
It makes a
Yeah,
change. Yeah,
How?
it makes it.
How I've been in
Like,
my
think
life
about it,
before I knew what empathy was versus how I am now when I'm trying to practice it. I make
So,
differences to
okay,
people's
Okay,
lives.
so I guess I'm wondering, how does that change, in a sense that just because I feel sorry or I feel empathy towards that sort of situation
Mhm.
doesn't prevent or stop that situation from happening over and over every day. It still happens. So what is the end goal of that? Like, me feeling empathy.
I can
What
answer
does
it.
that
You're-
accomplish?
To
It's a
me, you're
generational
looking.
effect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
yeah.
It's
You're
not
looking
just
too
what-
big
it's not just
picture.
you.
yeah, you want a
you're trying to
macro
solve racism.
solution
You're
with
not trying to solve racism
in
It's
an
just like
encounter with a police stop. It's
difference.
yeah.
Yeah,
To
that
me-
difference with you can make a difference with everyone. If everyone understands and empathizes the same way you do, then a real change can happen. So that's
Also-
why the knowledge and
Also,
understanding.
just one more thing. You are not black. And he now sees his friend who is not black empathizing with him. He now feels he has that one little bit of extra support through you.
Right, but that doesn't mean shit, because the next time he pulls over, is the same thing's gonna happen.
So,
It means
Unless it's
one less
another friend
person.
of yours.
It means one less person, dismissing their feelings or empathizing with them.
one more
'Cause you
person to
could- you
support
could-
them, man.
Yeah, you
I
could
don't-
easily talk to that person and be like, "Oh, why don't you just, if you talk to a friend who's having trouble because of this, you'd be like, "Oh, why don't you just do this, that?" It's exactly what you're doing now, actually, with
I don't understand.
With FJ's friends.
Maybe I'm just, I don't know.
Maybe
I'm not.
you don't see value in the little things, I guess.
It seems insignificant to me.
Right.
That's why, because it doesn't in the end result, that doesn't change anything what the person goes through, what my friend goes through in his everyday life.
But
Yeah,
that-
I feel
but
sorry,
how
and I
is-
feel
but
sorry.
how
Dede
is-
has probably called people out on his shit
No,
a
but
lot.
but how is that an assumption? How is that not an assumption too? It doesn't change anything in that person's everyday life.
It doesn't. It's not an assumption, because that happens in real life. That's what
Okay.
happens.
Because you knowing makes no difference to the system. That's what you're saying?
Yes. Well, hold on. What? Say that again.
Like,
Me knowing
You
doesn't-
knowing what he went through and empathizing the
Hmm.
difficulty and understanding him and being a moral support to him,
Mm-mm-mm.
in the end, you have no effect on his well-being outside into the system in macro, like in the actual
No,
world.
I have no effect of what he goes through the next time when he's without me?
Yes.
Like when I'm not
Did
there
it.
to
But
experience whatever.
when you are there, do you not make a difference even in the future if it happens when you're there?
I mean, yeah, I mean, he could say, oh, thanks, or like, I appreciate that. But then next day, same thing happens. Like it's what did that do?
What
He
did it?
still
But
goes
what
through the
didn't
same
it do,
thing.
Dede? What didn't it do?
I don't think.
Well, there.
well,
Okay. Let me try to outline in sort of a bigger picture, because what I'm understanding from you is you don't see a difference, because in the bigger picture nothing changes. This kid
Yeah.
is
He
still
doesn't
gonna
see
be
he doesn't see the value.
raised-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
But here's what I'll say. I'll give you an example. Actually, my parents, I would consider them like even our parents. We know them. To
We
be,
all know
like,
all of our
racist
parents are
to a
racist.
degree.
Yeah.
But look at us now, just one generation later, and we could be friends with
Anybody.
like we are less racist than our parents. I would like to believe.
No, but that's also because of the privilege we had in growing up in Canada. You can't assume that for the entire world. People who were born and raised in China, Korea, they're gonna be racist.
Yeah,
People
but
who
you
were
can-
born
you
and
know,
raised
this is the thing.
Yo,
This is
people.
the thing.
can
You're
hold on.
looking
on
too
that.
big picture.
People who were born and raised in Alberta they're Canada too, but they're still racist.
This is what I'm saying. You're thinking too big picture. Like these things, these incremental changes in the long run,
They
as long
add
as it's incremental. So what?
Add
So
up,
what?
bro.
It'll be unfortunate. Your friend, still has to live in a world where they're racist against him. But
Uh-huh.
these incremental changes with you, with me, all this
Uh-huh.
knowledge that we accumulate of understanding other people's cultures and
Yeah.
the things that they go through, generally,
that's-
like as things go on, longer term, it'll be, in my opinion, better. Headed
How?
the right
How?
direction.
How?
If it becomes your value, it'll become your kids' values,
Yeah.
Okay.
And your
and your kids
my-
will even take that even further. Well, your kids will, like how we've taken whatever thing of treat everyone with respect, but our parents are a little racist. Now we actually treat everyone with respect, but still a little bit racist sometimes. And now our kids are like treat everyone with respect, and they're not racist at all. Imagine, it's possible. It's possible.
It's a compounding effect.
I think you're looking at the glass too full for that.
Looking at the glass
It-
too full.
That's fine.
I think it's
I think
it's
you're
like-
underestimating the
power of the
difference you
human.
make.
Yeah.
Like I think for me, I think you're underestimating the difference you make in.
the reason why I
You're
say
powerful
that is
beyond measure.
because my input stops there. Like I'm not gonna take that and go further and take
and
action
protest.
to actually improve my friends'
Okay.
like everyday life.
Yeah.
Right.
So
But you're looking
all
very
I'm
very
doing-
micro.
So it's like,
All I'm doing
what's the point
is-
then, right?
Yeah, all I'm doing is, I feel bad. Shit. Okay, anyway. And then, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like,
Yeah.
what did you do? Yeah, sure, you made the guy feel better for 10 seconds. He
Yeah.
still has his entire life to go through. and
Right.
It's not
Question
gonna
for you,
make a
Dede.
difference. Yes.
Have you ever called anybody out on their shit before?
Of course I have. Do you know who you're
That's- I
talking to?
think- But that is exactly what can change the people around you and in turn can influence the people around them. It's a compounding effect
Compounding effect of
of
calling.
people calling people out.
Okay.
And then it will change behaviors because of that. And eventually more people, like the reason we talk about this is because probably somebody brought it up to us. It's
Yeah, I didn't look this up myself.
yeah, it's like you've called people out for their shit. That has changed their perspectives or at least made them think about something that they haven't thought of before.
Majority of the time, that's not how it goes, but okay.
Yeah,
I'm
usually
saying,
you
like,
just stop being friends.
Usually I lose my patience, but okay.
But it probably did have an effect on that person. So it's that sort of effect in this sense as well. It's like if you even at least begin talking about it or even confronting one person about it, you could change that person's perspective and then that can change another person's perspective. And it's like a cascading effect of small changes. So every little small thing you do does affect other people. Well, not every small thing, but sometimes.
So it's makes a difference because the more people that talk about it, the more exposure it has, and the more exposure it has, the better chance it reaches somebody who is actually capable of doing something about it. Is that how
It doesn't need to be one person that does a big change. It's a lot of people doing small changes that can make the big difference.
If there's by any opportunity or chance that you come across a cop, may there be your friend or maybe you just come across a cop who has that notion where they maybe even take pride in the fact that they feel they have power specifically, and they like to take advantage of that power over a specific race. If you ever come across that
Mm-hmm.
and it's blatant to you, or maybe
Mhm.
it's being administered to one of your friends, and you're like, fuck that, this isn't right. I mean, maybe not if it's a cop and you're also in the car, but what if it's your friend who happened to be a cop? You found out, or even if it's a coworker, somebody you just kind of met. Would you just stay silent?
If that cop was somebody I knew,
Yeah,
they wouldn't be somebody I knew.
you wouldn't be friends with them much longer.
Yeah,
You just cut them out.
yeah.
But that made a change. You weren't
changed?
well. You went from someone who could potentially been their friend, and now you've made a decision that you will not be their friend. You will not contribute to that person's life, or
Right. But that
Right.
doesn't stop me from that guy carrying out whatever his racist everyday shit that he does.
But
just
you're-
because I'm not friends with him.
well, you've decided not to support it. It's one less thing that gives them strength.
Maybe it's the whole like just perspective of where the focus is. Like I tend to, I guess, look too much into
Immediate
the
surroundings.
the result. Like
Yeah,
not
you want results. Yeah,
prog-
I want
yeah,
results
like
too, man.
not the progress per se, but like maybe I'm too tunnel visioned into the end result right now, and that's why I am thinking the way that I am thinking. You know, like yeah, I mean, of course, if there was somebody like that that I knew but then I stopped being friends with them, that's good for me because I don't have to associate with that kind of person. But that doesn't change the fact that that person is still gonna make other people's lives miserable, right? So
Yeah, maybe you.
to me that or other people like other maybe colored races or whatever. Like
Yeah.
I don't have so when I look at that, I haven't done anything to change anything. You know what I mean? Like it's still gonna happen, regardless of if I am their friend or not. Like it.
Okay, here's one. Here's
You know,
one.
a second degree, though.
Okay, this might be a stretch of an analogy, but it's like we watched Seaspiracy, right?
Yeah.
And I told you it makes me want to buy less fish
Yes.
and eat less fish.
Yes.
But in the grand scheme of things, all that fish was already slaughtered and caught and all that stuff, so I'm making no difference.
Yeah. It's the same thing with recycling. That's why I don't
Really true.
recycle.
Yeah, you don't recycle too. That makes me mad. Knowing that makes me mad. But I think you should still recycle. But anyway,
Oh my God, dude.
even if it's only 40% or whatever the percentage is of trash or recycled that ends up in trash or actually gets
But-
recycled, at least there's still that. And the
But to
more
make it up,
volume
I
there
stopped
is.
drinking. I stopped drinking bottled water. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you.
Oh, even better. See?
That's great. Nice.
But hey, are you making a difference? Because obviously those bottles already exist and someone else is going to buy them.
So in my defense, that kind of more convenient for me because I just bought a Brita, so I don't want to carry heavy bottled water around. So it's not the focus isn't that
It
I'm
wasn't recycling
using less bottle.
or plastic. Gotcha.
Yes.
But yeah, in my
It's for
mind,
my convenience.
in my mind, I think I am making a very, very, very micro impact by choosing not or to buy less fish, or to buy less red meat, or to not buy milk anymore. Like, I still eat a whole ton of cheese and pizza and ice cream, but I won't buy milk anymore. And I feel like I'm making a difference. But if you don't think I am, I mean, that's your opinion. But if someone thinks that your little minuscule things make a difference, you don't have to think you do. But if someone else does, that's still a difference. Even if you don't. So that black friend in that car who's thankful for whatever sympathy or empathy or like, sensitivity that you might have shown in that very moment saw something you don't, but he did. And that in itself is impact. Even if it's just singular moment and it doesn't feed on further, it was still something. It wasn't nothing.
Mm.
Like a good in a moment may not have any progress, but a good in a moment's better than a bad in a moment. Or indifference. Good is still better than indifference. I mean, yeah. I don't know if that makes sense.
Kind of does,
Canada
but
Day.
it kind of does. But I'm still more lenient on the
Why bother?
yeah.
Okay,
Like,
that's fine. We tried. That was my good of it in the moment.
Pride. You don't want to let go. You don't want to let go of your beliefs. Too much
it's
pride.
not belief. It's not belief. It's just like there's how many people are there in the world? Like
8 billion?
just
Yeah,
because-
you're bringing it back up to the
The macro.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I think if you want something like change like that, it should be forced.
If you want
Like-
something done, you have to do it yourself.
Yeah, it should be some sort of law or like something that's like enforced. That is the fastest way and the most efficient way to achieve the end result. That's what I think. Me thinking about something or me
I wouldn't
taking
say
a
it's
moment of
efficient though.
it's
There's
efficient
better
because
ways.
it's faster.
You could also break the law.
Yes, but at that point, that's at that point it becomes like are you breaking the law or not? Like not like
It's like,
have you
wow,
thought
I
about
came
this or
across
not?
this racist person who is like ridiculing my friend. I'm
Like
gonna kill this
honestly,
person. So this
no,
person can't do that
honestly,
again.
no,
It's like-
honestly, I think they should have it so that like anytime you spot a racism or like any sort of form of racism, like that person should be like penalized
special
right there.
points.
Yeah.
Social media
Yeah.
score.
Or no, not even
China!
maybe like
Black Mirror kind of stuff.
China, yo.
or
Black Mirror.
or maybe just like like or maybe give him a ticket or something like $500 or something like that, something stupid that that'll kind of prevent people from even thinking about doing it indirectly, something strong enough like that that forces people to like think that okay, this is wrong, even if they don't believe it is wrong, because it is wrong. There's
Yeah.
no
There should be a
like,
racism fine.
I think so. Like I honestly think
That's an interesting idea.
they should be fined, and then that is the fastest way to stop it, instead of me taking a moment of silence for 10 minutes. That doesn't do shit. Like I like you know what I mean? Like if you
It's
want
more the
better change-
intent.
Yo, I like
Yeah,
I like
the
your
action.
idea though. Would you have even thought of that idea had you known that there was a racism problem?
I've always thought about that.
Okay.
Like,
And look at that idea. It's a great idea.
yeah, but I can't do anything with it.
Why
So
not?
then I just kind of
You just shared it. I never knew you had that idea. It's a good idea.
because I'm
Very
not in
impractical.
because I'm not in the office.
Dude, like they introduce fines about the dumbest things, yet it holds and all of
Yeah.
a sudden it keeps and then it actually becomes norm.
Like, bro, like if someone
Seatbelts.
can sue McDonald's for millions of dollars because of hot coffee, like why don't we have racism fines?
Yeah.
Like it's so like, and then people like people taking time to like go to protest and all that. Great, yeah, you're being seen or heard, but what does that do? That's not gonna. That to me, that's not efficient. That's not the best way, the most optimal way to get the message across. If you want the message across, put it through law, man.
Well, here's the
Any-
thing, man.
if-
We're not there yet, though. We're not there where law can happen yet. More people have to agree with you first. Like more people have to be on that side. Like if the country is still not in unison of believing that there's a problem, it won't change. But if you
but
start to
see,
believe that there's a problem, and then your friend, and then your family, and then your worker, and all that, and more of this majority of the country start to believe the same thing, that's when you can go to legislation and make a
yeah, but
difference.
see, even with this whole like George Floyd cases and all that stuff, like, yeah, it stirred up, a huge like thing for what, couple months tops,
Yeah.
and then now it's like it moved on to the Asian thing, and then like it's to me just seems like it's a phase, and
You
that's why it's bad.
okay,
And
you
then
say that, but it's because that's only what media shows you. None of those causes stopped.
right,
It's
right,
just the coverage goes to what's trending and what's new, but they're ongoing. They're ongoing. And if there's progress, there's progress. But they don't stop. We don't just forget about them.
right, but like my point is, if it got to almost that, like to that, even that extreme point of like those cases,
Yeah.
why aren't there, why aren't there fines like that? They still don't exist.
Well, yeah, because legislation doesn't care yet.
Yeah.
and
It's
that's the
gonna
problem.
take a
That's the-
generation for people who care to end up in those positions. Like it's gonna take time.
and that's why I think what I do now doesn't really make a difference.
That's
Circles
fine.
back.
You,
Circles
you-
back.
It's fine.
but you're helping start this next generation though. That's gonna.
You are supporting the next gen.
Yeah.
I guess so.
That friend in that car with you could be the next president of the United States.
Oh man, imagine if you're friends with Obama.
And it can't be, and it
You'd
can,
be
and
like,
that
I
can't,
remember my
Dude,
friend
and-
dating.
and that can't come from those, like the what's the word? The minority. It has to be a white person putting that.
Oh, dude, that'll
It can't be
change.
anybody else.
That's gonna change. There's no way.
It's hard though
There's-
because if you check out the population statistics, it's still majority white people.
Oh, but it'll
I know,
change.
but no. But I'm saying no. But I'm saying no. I'm saying the person who, like, I hope it happens, but maybe next generation, the person who decides to like actually put it through legislation and make it a like illegal, and to fine people for racism has to be someone who is white. It can't come from somebody who's black or Asian. It's gotta
Yeah.
be white. That makes it
Yeah.
more like stick.
I think
It'll make it
yeah.
stick.
You're right.
Historically, it has been like it usually like Nelson Mandela partnered with the South African president. I think like most people do partner people like Abraham Lincoln as well, right? Like he was one of the people, but he wasn't the first person to think about abolishing slavery, right?
Mm.
Like I think partnerships like working together, yes. So maybe you make a white friend that's in law, and you can influence them. There you go. Can solve all the problems. Did call them out on their shit?
Yeah, make the next president. Just make them.
Ugh.
Your kid. Make sure your kid takes a place of office.
No pressure. But I think working together is probably the best idea. Because it can't just be from the minority.
Strength in numbers, yo.
Huh?
Strength in numbers, yeah.
Yeah. I think things change happens the more you work together rather than dividing people apart.
Like you even just said it. Say that statement you said again about minority and majority. You just said something.
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you said majority. I said it's hard for the minority to make a difference.
Yes. Okay.
Like the only reason you can make a change is when you start working together with other people. Like
Okay.
even if you guys have watched like was a Black Panther documentary on Netflix, as well as that recent one with the guys from Get Out, some of the actors there, Daniel Kaluuya.
Okay.
They had it tells the story of like the Black Panthers in Chicago. And the only reason why this one guy got assassinated was because he started becoming like
the Black Messiah, because he was uniting not just Black people but also like Latinos and white people, everybody that was underprivileged to work together, and that's why the government was afraid of them, essentially. And like they were gonna make a change, and that's the reason why the government was scared. Like it's things like that when you work together with other people, I think is the most effective way to do things. And you can only do that if you start calling your friends out on their shit.
I was I was gonna state another obvious, but I just want to say it is like a minority. You add one by one more each to that minority, you will eventually become the majority. Like a minority can't make it to a majority unless you add all those individuals to get there, even if it's one at a time. The change, this incremental change where you're not going to see change for a while, is because you need more and more people to add to that minority to become a majority. So it's obvious, obviously, that's just math, but like it's not going to happen in one go, one explosion of like, oh my god, the majority of the people who used to think one way are going to be like, we were wrong and now things have to change. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be little by little. One person's going to be convinced, and then another person's going to be convinced, and then it'll reach a point of critical mass where change can happen.
True. Yeah. Agreed. I think we're on the same page.
Yeah, I do think optimism and pessimism is part of it, and that's, you can't change that. It's like individual nature. If someone's a little bit more optimistic about others than others, but it doesn't change. Even if you're a pessimist, if you made a contribution, even if you're a pessimist and you don't think that's going to go much further, that's fine. Some optimist is going to think it's going to make some ripple effect, and it could.
Yeah.
So
there's this argument of that the human race needs people of these different kinds of points of view. You know what I mean? Like, in order to adapt to new situations, you need people with differing points of view, essentially, all the time, so you can adapt to new situations.
well, yeah, I think if everyone agrees, nothing changes, right? Because everyone's cool with it. Like everyone's like, oh yeah, all right, we're in agreement, so everything's fine. That makes sense.
Sadly, yeah. I mean, a lot of times I do think that, but that doesn't mean I don't change the way I live.
What do you mean? Think what? The majority thing?
No, if I
agreeing?
think that the chances of something drastic happening or changing within my lifetime is low,
Yeah.
that doesn't mean I don't do anything, or I don't change how I think, or I don't change how I act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like the whole, like I believe in sort of what you guys were talking about, microcosms. Like you make your own little miracles happen. It adds up to something. Like I like that thought, and Day might be right. It may not add up to something, but I personally would like to believe it does.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I didn't say nothing because I mean, I'm not gonna try to make Day change his mind. He knows he can't change my mind, and I know I can't change his, so it's all good.
Yeah.
I still think it's valuable to hear both points of view, though.
Yeah.
I've learned things from you guys involuntarily.
We're all screwed.
You know, we're all screwed.
But that's okay.
Possibly, it is one possibility.
It's okay, because who knows? Maybe, aliens will come and colonize us.
Yeah.
And
then aliens can take a moment of silence 100 years from now.
Dark, very dark.
Let's just have our, except their year is something like 2,000 days or something, and they're like, all right, it is our human day, and we will take a moment of silence for how we fucked up the humans.
Oh, we killed Earth and invaded and took over and
Yeah.
assimilated them.
Yeah. It's like I told you not to press that button.
All
Have you guys
right.
watched Raised by Wolves? Sorry,
Raised by
Raised by
wolves.
wolves. Why does that sound familiar?
it's a
Mowgli.
sci-fi. What? Oh,
Mowgli.
Mowgli.
Mowgli
I
was raised
mean,
by
I guess Akela
panther?
was a wolf.
Oh, yeah, wolf, yeah.
Akela was a wolf, I think. Yeah.
yeah, it's a new sci-fi
Bagheera was the panther.
Yeah.
the panther friend, the bear. Well, it's a good sci-fi. I do
Okay.
recommend it. I binged watched it last weekend.
Is it similar? Nah, nothing like Mowgli.
Not really. It's about like two androids raising human childrens on a new planet.
Jeez.
So it's like
So
it's like Mother. Have you seen Mother?
No, I'd say it's better than Mother.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say a lot could be better than Mother. Mother was pretty bad. But okay,
Fair,
cool.
yeah.
All right. It's a series or a movie?
Series. It's like there's only one season. It's directed and produced by Ridley Scott from Aliens.
Oh,
Ooh, that is a big name.
that might be worth watching.
Movie night.
Series night. It's like how we watched, what was that? Invincible. And we
no.
just killed it. We just killed Invincible in like 2 days.
Oh wow.
I really
wasn't there
liked
for
it. Or I did anyway. We started it together and then I watched the rest the next day. It's really good.
Nice.
Invincible is great.
Invincible was really good. I can't wait to see the rest. All right, guys. Thank you. I think on that note, it was a good discussion. Very intellectual, good input. Happy Canada Day still. I do think it's cool to be proud to be Canadian. We were talking about that outside the podcast, that when we go to other countries, people ask us what we are. We say Canadian, and then they're like, "No, what are you really?" And then we'll say what we really are in terms of where we're born.
What do you really?
Don't tell anyone, but I'm Filipino.
What's
That's
that
what
called?
I really am.
What's that called?
Racism?
No, but like towards yourself. Like there's a thing about this there's a term for that where you're kind of racist towards yourself.
Self-hate.
What?
Nah, not self-hate. Where you're not proud.
Crazy?
Where you're not proud of.
Not proud. Oh,
You're not proud of like where you're from or where you were born or your nationality. You don't want to be associated with your actual nationality.
I have not heard of that.
There's a
Crazy.
term for
What's
that. I kind of have it.
You
the
have
opposite
it?
of pride and shame. You had
You
you
wish
had,
you weren't Filipino?
you had national shame.
Not that I wish I wasn't Filipino, but I don't. I'm not.
don't
I feel like
identify.
there's like a negative in my head. I've defined more negative associations with Filipino that I would rather not be identified as one.
That's actually I feel the same actually.
Yeah,
Sorry, can you say that one more time? You'd rather not be identified as one because why?
I've associated in growing up and like all the stereotypes of Filipinos and like all the negativity associated with Filipino. I'd rather not
Okay.
identify as one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Like I would say, yeah, I'm Canadian. I'm a Filipino, but I'm not a typical Filipino. I'll say that. Like I find myself saying that often where if I'm trying to define, oh, you're Filipino. Yeah, but I'm not a typical Filipino because of what I know.
Internalized racism.
Internalized racism? Okay.
Internalized racism.
Yeah.
Wow,
Whoa,
that's
that's
nuts.
crazy.
It's
I had
deep.
no
FG's
idea.
racist.
Towards myself.
FG's racist.
Yeah. It really that's what it is. I'm not going to deny it. I'm being honest.
Yeah. It's fucked,
Yeah.
man. Yeah.
It's messed up. I don't
I
like
mean,
it.
I
I
think
don't
it's
like not having it, but
I think a lot of Germans would have had that right after the World War II.
true. True.
Like, I don't want to be associated with Hitler. Fucking everyone hates me if I go anywhere around the world.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of happy that it changed and people aren't like that, because I'm pretty sure like a lot of years after World War II that did happen. Like a
Yeah.
German would go to some other country and they just get shit on.
Oh, I'm oppressed. Internalized racism is a form of internalized oppression. Thank you,
Anyway,
Dr. Karen D. Pike. Thanks, guys. I think that's cool. We didn't have like a chill mukbang thing, but I think it was a riveting conversation, discussion. We'll tune in next week, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, and we will talk about, or maybe we'll do a chill one next week. Who knows? But thanks for watching, whoever's watching. Please
GG.
remember, hit a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you know next time we're live. And I'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
I'll see you this
turn off my Zoom.